Good afternoon and welcome to the work session, budget work session for Tuesday, May 12th, 2026. Can we have a roll call, please, for attendance?
Commissioner Thomas.
Aye.
Commissioner Pruitt.
Here.
Commissioner Witt.
Here.
Commissioner Hargis. Mayor Staten.
Here. I'm just going to immediately turn it over to Dylan. Dylan, this is a budget work session and this is your show, sir.
All right, well, thank you all for coming today. We are getting started a little behind schedule, but our intent, I know for those of you who've been through these before, every year we kind of tackle this a new way. And this year, Chelsea and I kind of tried to outline the work session in a way that made the most sense. So our intent is to give an overview of the budget. All of you all should have on your computers in front of you a copy of the budget. We're going to start out with some general comments. I'm going to kind of discuss a little bit how the budget's organized. We're going to talk about some revenue stuff, some personnel stuff. We are going to invite each department head up here. For those in administration, which I think most of them are in the room, we've got only about 30 to 40 minutes budgeted for all of you all, and there's about, I think, 9 or 10 of you all. So point being is we could turn this thing into a really, really long time. That is not our intent. What I've asked each department head to do is when it's their turn is to come up, talk about their capital, personnel, any major changes from the previous year. And what I would say is, as you all have the budget in front of you, if you see anything that looks out of whack, feel free to let us know or ask questions about it. But we just felt like if we went line by line, it would take a long time, and we want to respect everybody's time. But if there's anything that you all want to talk more about, we're happy to do it. Or if there's something that we weren't clear about, feel free to ask. I will say, as you all have already seen, we've got Jimmy John's in the back, we've got snacks, we've got drinks, and at any point, if y'all feel like you start needing a break, we'll just take a break. And these are, we intend for this to be pretty informal. Before I get started, I do want to say a big thank you to Buzzy, Chelsea, and Megan, and especially Chelsea. She's put a lot of work into this, and I've been really impressed with her throughout this process. And I just want to brag on her because it's you tell her something one time and it's like a trap, and it's impressive. So with that, we'll kick it off. She's also made this great PowerPoint, so I'm going to kind of walk through this the first bit, and then we'll get into things. So one thing, if you all look at the beginning of your all's budget, there is something that's called the executive summary, and it's about 7 or 8 pages long. And an idea that Chelsea had this year, which I thought was really cool, is if you all remember in January, we had a work session at the Extension office. And you all went around and you talked about your 5 or 6 top goals. What Chelsea did was she actually organized those, created key categories, organized the executive letter around that, and then addressed each of those categories, things that you all wanted to see accomplished. She put specific items in there for each category that said, like, these are things that are included in this budget to address that. So that's kind of how the executive summary is organized. So the beginning of the letter, very quickly, she's just got some challenges facing the city. Some of these are just general things that are going on currently. A couple that I'll touch on. You all know what we're facing with inflation in the housing market, how we're combating that. Health insurance costs, we will talk about a little bit later. We're actively engaged in, or we're constantly engaged in looking at those costs, what we can do to keep some of the best health insurance services for our employees while also maintaining our costs. City landfill, as you all know, we've talked for several years about. We're approaching that time where we need to be closing that landfill. We've set money aside for several years. Let's see. And then, always at the end, Parks Master Plan and other projects, we're always challenging or figuring out ways to fund upcoming projects. So then on the right side of the screen, what you'll see are commission goals for the city. So this is what I was talking about earlier. These are the kind of broad categories that when Chelsea looked at all the things that you all talked about in the work session in January, those were kind of the overarching goals. And then I'm going to kind of just touch on each one of these really quick and just list a couple of the initiatives, a few of the initiatives that we have in each one of these. Each one of these we'll probably talk about more at length later on, but if there's one at any point that you all would like to stop and talk about, feel free to do so. So first one is organizational excellence and workforce support. So kind of an overarching theme, and we've talked about this in a couple other work sessions, is how can we retain our employees, and how can we incentivize our employees? How can we help out our employees? This year, and Commissioner Pruitt, I heard your comment earlier about right now we got 2% proposed for COLA, 1% for merit. what I would ask is when Megan gets to her part with the personnel, let's discuss that. But, that's one thing that we're happy to propose for our employees. We've got several employee retention initiatives. We've talked about vacation buyback. We've talked about the stipends that we're going to be offering for employees who have special certifications. We've also talked about the retirement match program. So all of that stuff we have included in this budget based on the previous work session that we had with you all. We also, succession planning. I want to give a shout to Buzzy. That's something that our organization has really focused on for the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, it's amazing when you look around the room. Most people have been in their position for 3 years or less, especially at the department head level and assistant department head level. Recycling services. We've talked to you all about this as well, but one thing that we think, brings organizational excellence is us looking to bring that in-house. So those initiatives are reflected in this budget. And then another thing, which we'll talk about a little bit longer in IT, is technology initiatives. The mayor and I have talked quite a bit over the years about being better about maintaining our assets, specifically in parks and public works and others. And so one of the programs that we're looking at getting, which the water utility already uses, is called CityWorks. It's an asset management-based software that's GIS-based. And there's a lot of, we'll talk later about it, there's a lot of really cool ways where we as an organization can use that and just improve our efficiency. Also looking at getting a project management software, which is a lot cheaper software, called Monday.com, which will allow department heads to share information, share tasks. A lot of times now it's like I've got my Excel to-do list, she's got her to-do list, other people have their to-do list, and there's no centralized sharing of that. So we're looking at a software that would allow us to centralize some of this stuff and just help improve efficiency. Economic development and business-friendly environment. So one of the things that we've talked a lot about in commission meetings over the last 6 months is codes modernization. So the mayor and you all have asked us to look at other communities and what they do and look at how business-friendly our practices are. And so that's something that legal and codes and the planning commission are going to tackle this year. And so we've got funds in there for that. We've obviously got, we talked earlier about the annex and how we're hoping to consolidate codes and occupational license under the same roof. So that's something where we think we'll continue to promote that business-friendly environment. And then economic development, we increased our, we're going into the new year of a 5-year campaign for economic development, so we increased our funding for them from $50,000 to $80,000 in this year's budget, and we also include $100,000 for general economic development projects to kind of help as needed as things come in throughout the year. The next kind of overarching goal is housing and cost of living affordability. We already support a few local nonprofits who, through the outside agency funds, the process that we use the United Way, and so that's one way we're supporting in that. We've also got our continued partnership with the Habitat for Humanity. Ms. Mills also put in here, we're maintaining stable local tax rates. We're not proposing or showing any tax rate changes in this. Having our own utility ownership, that also helps with housing and cost of living. And then we've got, various other initiatives that we're working on. I know Ms. Kelsey is working on some tiny home stuff right now. And so, we've got the Jago neighborhood that's still being developed. So there's a lot of things in the budget, kind of trying to hit on these quick so we can get a little bit back on schedule. But there's just a lot of things that we have going on that are related to housing and affordability here locally. Next up, we have infrastructure, transportation, and connectivity. Mayor, you already mentioned earlier, but for the last few years, we've increased our paving and concrete and sidewalk budgets by 10% each year. The hope with that was not just to keep up with inflation, to actually be able to do more. Those are one budget. Those are budgets that I always tell people you're not saving by not spending all your money, because there's, as you all know, there's always places we can spend that money. And so, Mr. Williams and Ms. Basham and others do a great job. Mr. Gibson did a great job to make sure that we try to spend as much of that money as possible so that we're keeping our infrastructure, we're improving it as we go. Already talked about the sidewalks. So another big thing that's in this budget that we'll talk about further as well is the transfer station. So I've already mentioned the landfill and how we kind of, just to kind of recap. So the landfill, we have kept open because we essentially use the top of it as a transfer point. We haul the debris up there, it gets loaded off, and then hauled off to Davis County. That was always kind of meant to be a relatively short-term solution while we identified and located a new transfer station. So we have included $4 million in this budget, which is, I believe, coming from bond funds, correct?
Yes.
Which would come from a new bond, not one we already have, to build that. Now, I will say that does probably fall a little short of the funds we will need, so we're looking at other opportunities to make up that deficit for that transfer station. But it is something that we feel like we need to make progress on as we start to look at closing our landfill and moving our transfer station operations away from the existing landfill. Next up, we have, and also have under there, facility infrastructure improvements. So as you all know, we're actively working on the HVAC upgrades at Peabody, and then Assistant City Manager Buzzy Newman and I were just talking the other day about whether or not we should go ahead and start the design of this building, because we don't want to be in a situation like we were for Peabody where it all goes out one day and all of a sudden we're, without heat, air in this building. That wouldn't be good. So that's one other thing that we've included approximately $300,000 for HVAC system upgrades. All right, so the next category is public safety. As you all heard, we talked about the Safe Streets for All grant. Just as a reminder, we actually already have been awarded. So I mentioned earlier that we have the planning grant and then you have the implementation grant. But there's also a supplemental grant that we've already applied for and been awarded. And this is specifically to look at our sidewalks throughout town for pedestrian mobility, ADA accessibility. We received $544,000 in grant funding for that, and so that we'll start tackling that project in this next fiscal year. We've also included approximately $20,000 as a placeholder to specifically look at those 20 intersections that the mayor has talked to us about that are the highest incident intersections. We'll specifically be looking at striping, timing, turning movements, that sort of thing. Our assistant city manager and team, they met with the NPO, I believe, last week. And they're going to assist us with that. That's something that they can aid with us in that. Fire Station 1, as you all know, we hope to have that completed by sometime later this calendar year. And that'll obviously help our public safety initiatives throughout the city. We've also got our school system, our partnership with the county when it comes to the SRO, and then also we're continuing to pursue the Hero House initiative. Next up, we have Parks, Recreation, and Quality of Life. So this budget continues to offer support for our Recreation Association. So as you'll know, annually we provide so much in funding to our youth rec leagues. So we've continued that. We've also included, I believe, is it 30,000? 30,000 for potential, kind of as a placeholder. We had them submit applications, and some of them this year requested certain capital improvements, and so we kind of put $30,000 in there as a placeholder until we determined we wanted to kind of work with them and say, what I encouraged each of them to do was if you had something you wanted to be done, how could you partner with us? Like, how is it that we can make this a partnership so the city's just not footing 100% of the bill? And I'll point to tennis as a great example. So we include, we've got a $120,000 resurfacing project for the downtown tennis courts, and that's being funded 50% from the USDA grant, so $60,000 roughly coming from them, and then the tennis club and the city of Henderson are splitting the remaining $60,000, $30,000 each. So that's included in this budget. That's an example of kind of what we're trying to encourage the other organizations to do so that our dollars go a little bit further. Expanded community events. Mr. Kinney will talk about this when he gets to his section, but last year we introduced a couple new events. We had the drive-in movie at the Bridges. We also had the Boo Bash in Central Park as part of Halloween. I know Mr. King has several other events in mind as well, and we've actually listed those in the budget and put some funds to them. We've also got, the Parks Master Plan. We've put about $500,000 in this budget as a placeholder for the Parks Master Plan. We had a pretty in-depth work session a couple weeks ago where we talked through that. And so basically the 10 to 12 initiatives that you all kind of prioritize, we will continue to support and go after those in this budget with that money. And then we also include, let's see, is that all for the overleaf, the 72.5, or did that include other stuff
It's
too?
for,
Oh, for the roundabouts, okay. We also have roughly $73,000 in the budget for beautification efforts. Some of this is related to the maintenance of the new roundabouts on 2nd Street. So the state, when we did all that, they had agreed to mow them so many times, but obviously with the flowers and everything, it requires a higher level maintenance. So we solicited quotes, and Days Garden is going to be taking care of those for us. And then we also included some money for the potential clover leaf beautification there, which I know you've asked about several times, the potential plantings around.
Yeah.
We don't have a plan yet, but we put some money in there so that when we get ready to do that, we have money available.
that money also includes repairs to the perch area right here downtown. That way we can keep up with how it should look.
All right, and then for our last goal, we have collaboration and strategic partnerships. So as you all know, and as you all talked about during the retreat, this is really, in a lot of cases, what makes our city so special is our collaboration, not just internally, but externally in strategic partnerships. In here, we include another $300,000 in the next fiscal year for to continue the inner city improvement plan. We also, under the current version of the budget, which you have in front of you, includes $900,000 for the second phase of the new Ogden Conference Center. After discussions with the mayor, we're probably going to go ahead and include the third payment as well. So that is not included in the draft budget you have in front of you. But since the printing of this budget, we've already had a few changes, and we'll address those as we go. But with the budget, as you can imagine, as you change one number, it changes numbers in a whole bunch of other places. So we kind of have to have a cutoff date. So that's one thing I believe we'll probably add. Those funds we do have available in our assigned reserves, correct, Ms. Mills? So it will change the overall number, but just imagine we're just pulling that, as I like to call, our savings account. Let's see, we've also got Anthony Brooks Park in the budget. We've talked about that a lot as well. We've got the funding in there to cover that project for next fiscal year. And then we kind of just have a note about how we have the quasi-governmental partnerships that we fund through the city-county co-op that we usually discuss annually, as well as the outside agencies. We include approximately $150,000 in the upcoming budget, just as we've done in the last couple of years for the nonprofits that are now selected through the United Way Committee. So those are kind of the goals. When we, and I think Chelsea did a really good job when she heard from you all in January, your all's goals. She tried to create overarching themes, and then we tried to put the things that you all wanted into one of those goals, and then also added things that were either in the budget that we knew we needed to do or that you all had talked about throughout the year. So a couple other things that I'll just mention as priorities, and then I'll turn it over to Chelsea. And feel free, if at any point you all have questions, I know I'm throwing a lot of stuff at you all, but if you have questions or anything, feel free to stop me. A couple other priorities and issues just to consider, capital improvements. We had a decent number of capital requests this year from our department heads. There were only probably 4 or 5 things we actually did not include in this budget. The things that we thought were good requests that didn't end up making the draft budget, we've asked the department heads to talk about those when it gets to their time, because we want you all to be aware of them. Some of them we think are good ideas, we just didn't feel like this year was necessarily the right year, or we want them to bring it up because it's something we need. We just said, can it wait a year longer? If that makes sense. The other big thing, which is kind of a big swing in how much it could cost, is software replacement. IT, we'll talk a little bit later about. New World is what we call our ERP software, and they can speak to this a lot better than I could. But we use it for across the city for all sorts of stuff, and it's kind of like the backbone technology for the city. And we've been notified that they're no longer onboarding any new users. I don't know that we have an official sunset yet, do we? But the writing is on the wall, y'all correct me if I'm wrong, but the writing is on the wall that we need to start the process of migrating away from them. If we were to go with a completely new brand, so to speak, you're looking at a $3 to $4 million investment. There are other software solutions that fall within that same family that would maybe be a cheaper switch. So we're going to have to put a team together that says, okay, is that extra money worth, if we like that more expensive one better, is it worth the extra money, or is this one, when we can transfer our data a little bit more easy, is it not worth as much money? So that's a big thing that we've got kind of in the future. Fire Station 2, we talked about replacing Fire Station 2 for several years now. It's still out there. We don't have any money in this budget for that, but it's something that we need to continue thinking about. Funding for the Parks Master Plan, we just had a work session on that, but I would say that is another one of our, large challenges. And when we talk about the Parks Master Plan, it's not just the new stuff, it's finding money to replace the pool, finding money to replace things that we know are aging out and that we need to replace. And then, as you all are aware, we've talked about this several times, but the census, when we were, and since some of us, we met when we were in DC on this issue, but as of the last census, we're still within the planning boundaries of the MPO, but we're not formally connected to them when it comes to the way funding flows. For HART, it still remains to be seen how that is impacting us. We had a conversation yesterday with Jennifer Scott over at the MPO, who does the grant writing part for us, and it sounds like we're getting more money, but we're also having to pay more of our own. We're having more of a match. And there's like a delay to that money, how it works. But I do know the one thing that is really hurting us, and Buzzy, correct me if I'm wrong, but we used to get dedicated, I believe it was SHN funds annually. And basically those are the money that it kind of goes into our bank account. We let it build until we have enough, and then we do projects like Green River Road widening. I believe Watson Lane widening was spent primarily using those funds. We don't have that bank of funds growing anymore. So we've missed out on that now for a few years now, and that was the money that we would then get enough and then spend. Now, I will say we've been fortunate because due to the mayor's efforts and others, we've had a lot of success with the state funding things directly, which has historically not been the case. We typically, so in a way that has kind of replaced that, but we have missed out on that dedicated funding source. So one of our priorities, and I know your all's priorities as well, is to continue to keep getting reattached to the MPO is a priority, because it is, and I'll say this, I know several people in the room have worked, we used to dread the triennial review, which was a once every 3 years where the Federal Transit Administration would come in and actually do an audit basically, and now we have to do something similar to that annually for the state. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong, I'm looking at Megan and Crystal and Dawn, but the state has actually been way more difficult to deal with. If you all recall, I think, what was the document we had them approve like 4 times?
Yeah, the Title VI.
The Title VI document. So it's, the state and the federal don't always agree. And so for us to get back to the MPO is a big deal for staff time, for funding, for roads. It's just, so that's something we're going to continue to address and try to look at. So,
And just to add just a touch of context to it, Dylan and the commission, we met on the top floor of the Department of Transportation in Washington back in March. And this was the subject that we talked about, was getting back connected to the MPO. And I thought the meeting went really well. And I think as of the next census, which is still a few years away, we're going to have to fight through what we've been fighting through successfully. And then hopefully a return to the MPO is imminent. At least that's the way it feels. So, yeah.
all right, well, with that, if there's any other questions or comments, I just wanted to kind of give I know that was a lot of information all at one time. We're going to talk about each one of those things a little bit more later on as it falls under the appropriate category. But if there's no questions at this point, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Ms. Mills and let her talk about our revenues.
I'll keep this quick since we're a little bit behind, but I'm going to kind of go over the revenue summary in your guys' budget in case you guys are wanting to look at that while I'm talking. It should be in your bookmark, but it's also page 64 of the budget. So our total revenues for all of our funds for the city is right around $106 million. And what I'm going to mainly focus on is our major revenue sources within those $106 million. So the big portion is our general fund tax revenue of about $35.8 million, and then gas sales of $18.5 million. And so part of that, the tax revenue, we have our 3 big tax sources for general funds. We have our property taxes, we have our insurance tax premiums, and then we have our occupational business license tax. And so, as Dylan mentioned before, in this proposed budget, we did not change any of those tax rates that the city can control there. So we're keeping in the proposed budget, the property taxes at the .470 per $100 assessment. And then for the insurance premium taxes, that is staying at the 11% that we have since I believe in 2020. And then our business license is staying at 1.65% for both our net profit and our payroll taxes for that. We also have tax streams for pilot payments or in lieu of property taxes for our utilities, and so that's another big chunk of our general fund tax revenues, right around $4.6 million there. And then this is just kind of showing the chart of the general fund revenue by category. So as I mentioned, our big three are the payroll, net profits, property taxes, and insurance premiums, and then also payment from utilities. So you can kind of see with this graph is that we are strong in all four of those, but we're not necessarily pulling one or stronger from one to the other. So we're a pretty balanced part with our revenue streams right here. And then, do you guys have any questions in relations to that revenues? Well, then I will turn it over to Megan to talk just a broad overview of all the personnel summaries of that.
So overall, for the personnel summary, we are requesting an increase of 2 full-time positions and 1 part-time position. And I do want to specify that one of the full-time positions we're requesting is replacing the current recycling contract. And another one is going to be for the fire science pathway that's going to be partially funded by the school system and partially funded by the county. And then we have some other reclassifications and a few changes. We also have some planning for succession, so we have a few overhires on here. I'll let you all ask questions if you wish whenever we get to each department and their specific requests. We also have a few initiatives that are hopefully to help us with retention and attracting employees. And one of those is the Kentucky Deferred Comp Match Program, which Dylan mentioned earlier. So as you know, that saving for retirement is really important, and as the Kentucky retirement system, you know, tier 1 was really great, but it just isn't that way anymore. So we are trying to encourage employees to plan for their retirement, and if this is approved, the Kentucky Deferred Comp Match employees will be able to submit or contribute money to their own Kentucky Deferred Comp, and we will have a matching account 401A, and the match on that is 50% up to $1,000 per fiscal year. Then we also, Dylan mentioned the vacation sellback program. That's another initiative that we think will help with employees, and these policies will be coming out in the next commission meeting. There will be stipulations to make sure that people are still taking vacations and having a healthy work-life balance. The next one I want to talk about briefly are the training stipends, and these include stipends for specialty certifications for police and fire. We really just want to recognize the extra time and sacrifice that goes into filling these roles, and I'll let the chiefs explain a little further the specifics for each of their teams. And then we're also proposing a language proficiency stipend. So as you know, we have a very diverse community, and there are a lot of different language, specifically Spanish-speaking citizens, and we already have a couple of employees who are just courteous enough to actually help translate. And so this would sort of incentivize that and help us better serve the public. And the languages will be based upon the needs of the facilities, just based upon the needs of the community.
And would you talk a little bit about how because we weren't just going to say, well, you know, an unlimited amount. And we weren't going to say, you know, like if someone knows German, you know, like they may not. We've got to limit it through HART. We've had to do what's it called? Limited, which identifies the languages in our areas that we need. And so we have limited that, but we've included money in there for it.
Yes, so we plan to limit this per working area, and then it will be approved by the appointing authority just based on the needs of the community. And there will be a requirement for an official certification to make sure that this is really actually proficient and needed.
So like for this building, you may have one, no more than two, you know, because we do have a lot of people who become de facto interpreters just because they do know another language, and we felt like it was fair to offer that, so.
Any questions on personnel before we get into specific school departments?
One thing, this may be a good time to go ahead and talk, because I know there's a question about COLA. This is probably a good time as any to talk about it. So Chelsea, do you want to talk a little bit about just how we arrived at the proposed COLA and merit, and then you may I think I would want to know that before you wait. Okay, yeah.
When we did the beginning of this draft budget, starting back in January, we kind of compare all the data that comes in at the beginning of each year for what other people are using for COLA, what things are going for the consumer price index, things like that. And so we mostly, we take into consideration our community, but we also take into consideration what the continual growth of that increase for inflation. And so this year it was right around the 2.7 to 2.9 was going back and forth there. And so we kind of landed of what can we afford versus like what was through the inflation prices there. And that's kind of how we came up with the 2% COLA and then 1% merit for that.
So one thing I'll say, because this came up in City County Co-op the other day, so just to kind of get everybody, and you all probably know this, but in case you don't, so the way that it works for us is July 1, you get COLA. So every employee gets COLA, and that just gets automatically added to their pay. That's just automatic. Merit is different, and we've talked about the merit of doing something different than how the merit works currently and making it maybe longevity. It's a conversation for another day. But the way merit works currently is every employee gets an annual evaluation based on their hire date, right, or their promotion date if they've been promoted. And if they get a 75 or above on that evaluation out of 100 from their supervisor or their department head, they get the full merit. So COLA gets applied automatically every July 1st. Merit gets applied if they get a successful score on the anniversary of hire. I would say we have less than probably 2%. We only have a handful of people every year who don't get the full merit. There is a level of, so anyway, I just wanted to explain that while we were talking about it. So that was kind of where we landed. The other reason, and we're happy to entertain discussion about other numbers, just kind of explaining to you our justification. Part of the other thing that we took into account was with the additional incentives with the vacation buyback, the Kentucky Deferred Comp Match, and then the employee stipends, in particular the vacation buyback and the retirement match. We put money in the budget for those, but you have no way of knowing how much it will be utilized. So that was kind of why I don't think we took a conservative approach, but that's probably one of the reasons also why we weren't as high with the COLA and merit. But that's kind of where we're at, and that's what we proposed. Happy to hear any discussion that you all may have about, potentially something else than what we proposed in the draft budget.
Commissioner Pruitt?
Yeah, what I was, excuse me, what I was really looking at, the national average came out today that inflation has taken everything any employee got as a raise of last year. It's at 3.8, it's projected to go 4.7 within the next 3 months. So, and we got this war and gas prices are sky high. There's a lot going on. I think that we can go ahead and give the employees a little bit higher raise. That's just my opinion. And what reason why our property assessments in 2025 was $1,541,157,000. Now it's projected to be, see where we're at? $1,605,705,324. That's an increase of 4% on residential property valuations. So that's going, Chelsea, and you was looking up the number. What just not including the income, insurance taxes, net profit taxes, none of that. I just, what was the number we were looking at just
With
for?
the estimated values that we got from the PBA's office for this next year, if we kept our same property tax rates, we would look at a $300,000 increase from last year.
Yeah.
With the real estate.
And that's not including any of the other taxes that we're gonna get, net profits, payroll, with this 4% increase from the PBA. So at this time, I think that we can give our employees a little higher raise.
So was that already budgeted in, the increase?
Yes, yes.
So we
So
still
that
got,
increase of the property tax assessment is included in this proposed budget, so, it's not an additional 300,000, that's
it's
not,
part of
in
the
this budget. It's
strategy.
already included in there.
so we're still gonna have to come up with that figure somewhere. that line.
And, I do have the calculation, so if we did do the, every 1% increase that we do for personnel salaries, so that would include salaries and benefits, including with that increase, it's looking at around 375,000 for that 1% increase there.
And like I said, I'm not including all the other 4% increases, like for insurance, all that's gonna come in there too. So I was just looking at the real estate.
No, I was just asking the question, we're gonna have to take it, we're gonna have to find somewhere in the budget, we're going to pay for this, because it's already factored in.
Correct.
across the
Well,
board.
it's factored in under the revenue.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's still, we're gonna have to cut
We still have
something
another
somewhere, we gotta come up
375,
with something, yeah.
Either cut or come up with.
So this is
I'm
one
not,
of,
I'm not,
Yeah.
don't take it as I'm against it.
No.
I'm just,
well, this is one of those things where before we leave this part of the discussion, we need to give them some direction, so when they
Yeah.
bring us a final cut, we're not having
Right.
to amend it at that point in time. No, where Commissioner
I'm in
Pruitt
favor.
stands, Commissioner Hargis, what are your thoughts on changing it to 3-1 versus 2-1 on COLA and merit?
So you would just, I guess the COLA is still a little confusing to me because I'm not as up to date on how that all functions, but would you adjust one of those numbers or you would do 2 and 2?
No, it would be 3-1 in this
3 and
case,
1.
yeah.
COLA would
The
be
cost of
same.
living would go from 2 to 3%, and then the merit would stay at 1%, according to what Commissioner Pruitt has
Okay,
proposed.
so you would just raise that one by
Yeah.
1.
Uh-huh.
let me pose this question real quick. What would be the difference in going 3-1 and 2 and 2?
Same.
It'd be the same increase, it's
Same
just
this
whether
year.
the employees get it
It'd be this
as
year,
of
though.
June, or
Okay.
as of July 1st, or if they have to wait till their evaluation period
Okay,
to
so-
get the max of
Right.
that.
Okay, so merit's still,
Because of the time.
Merit would just be staggered.
But in
Yeah.
totality, it would be pretty less.
Yeah, no, I see what you're
given
saying,
year.
because not
Not
if we do a
Everybody's
cost of
gonna get it
living,
at the same
it's
time.
gonna hit in
is it merit just
July.
year to year, it doesn't compound, right?
It
Yeah,
does.
it does.
And like, so the way, honestly, that was gonna be my suggestion, is I would, when we had debated this, when we had talked about it, we had talked about considering 2 and 2, so that would, if you all were going to consider an X percentage, I would say you may consider adding it to merit. But, Commissioner Thomas, to your question, the way it works is, so you've got, and you might have to help me with this, you've got contracted employees, and you've got employees who are on the pay grade scale, who are minimum and maximum. Everybody gets the merit unless they reach the top of their max. If they reach the max of their pay grade, they still receive merit, but it comes as a longevity check instead of getting added to their salary.
And that
Right,
doesn't count.
right.
And that doesn't compound.
Yeah, that's what I was getting
Yeah.
at.
But we
so-
don't have
But that's,
we don't have a
okay.
whole lot.
Whole lot of
But then everybody else still
Situation.
gets it, so it's
And like I said, I would say 98% of our employees get their merit. And honestly, anytime I get one, I have to sign all the evaluations. If I just had one the other day, if I get one that is below a 75, I go to Megan and I say, okay, did this person really deserve below a 75 or not? Because we don't see that many of them.
No, you're not going to either.
The cost of living adjustment will kick in for over 97% right now. If we.
Well, July 1st.
Yes.
So here's a question too. So hazardous pay is on our scale completely now? So if we did 2 and 2, then hazardous pay would also get 2 and 2? Okay, I wanted to make sure that, because it didn't used to be that way, so I just want to make
Chelsea,
sure
your
that
numbers
that's.
include hazard pay too, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Total.
So if we did merit, if we did 2 and 2 versus 3 and 1, I think it's reasonable to expect that 375 number would fall around 350. I mean, it's like a negligible, it'd be less, but it
Less.
wouldn't be like a whole lot less. just because of timing. They get the
Yeah, 'cause
merit on their
they're-
anniversary date, whereas if COLA is available right July 1st. What are your all's thoughts on adding an extra % to the payroll for next year? You guys have any?
I'm not against it at all, but we need to entertain where we're gonna get it from.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, once we come up where we're gonna take it from, I got no problem at all with it. I've always said, you know, you need to pay your employees if you wanna keep them.
Commissioner Witt, what about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, if we're gonna find where we get the money from, in the budget, then I would be in support of it.
Okay. I agree certainly with the first part of what you said. It impresses me because I look at that stuff daily because of my job, about the interest rates and
Yes,
stuff. You
I'm
were spot
on it.
on. Yeah, no,
Yeah, I'm on
it's
it.
April's year-over-year interest rates, 3.8%. It is expected to go up because of high gas prices and things like that. Not substantially, but it's projected to go up a little bit more. If we were to do an extra %, that would bring us up to a 4% raise for, up to a 4% raise for employee. And that would certainly be just a little bit above the inflation rate. And I'm a big fan of doing that because if we're not providing competitive salaries that keep up with inflation, then I feel like we're falling behind. And so I'm certainly in favor of you guys bringing us back a plan that's either 3 and 1 or 2 and 2. Whatever you guys think is going to be best and best implemented by the city. But that extra %, we had talked about possibly doing an extra % a couple of months ago. And I still think the same way I did a couple months ago. I think it would be a good move on our part just to make sure that we're keeping up for our
Are you guys
employees.
comfortable we can find that?
So Ms. Mills and I were talking, I think this is probably a good time for us to talk about our fund balance. Because, you know, so we are presenting to y'all a balanced budget, correct? And so what I want her to talk a little bit about is what that means. So you'll know, like last year, for example, or I guess the current year we're in, we showed a deficit. Well, a lot of that was because we were pulling funds from our reserves, right? So I would like Chelsea to talk about that a little bit, because I want you, as you are making this decision, I want y'all to understand, you know, because I heard a couple times, you know, where are we finding that money from? I want to make sure that we're being clear. And so I think this would be an appropriate time for her to talk about the fund balance a little bit, and kind of where we stand with our assigned reserves, our unassigned reserves, and how any changes that we make tonight would affect that.
So, included in that budget that you guys have, it's on page 62. It kind of outlines where we are with our fund balance and kind of the breakout of that. So that's kind of where I'm going to be getting my information from as I talk to you guys. But, so we are projecting by June of this year that we'll have about $24.5 million in our fund balance reserves. And so of that amount of money that's not reserved for a specific project, there's about $4 million there. And with this proposed budget, we would be using roughly $2.6 million of that $4 million of unassigned reserves. And so if we did include a 1% increase in those salaries, we would be taking from that unassigned balance.
Closer to $3 million,
Yes.
Yeah,
In theory.
in theory.
So last year, if you remember, and it's also a good time to discuss this part, Chelsea has some of the same theories that Robert Gunter used to have in terms of conservative budgeting, overestimating our expenses, underestimating our revenues, so that at the end of the year, we come out better than what we predict.
right.
Last year, if you remember, the deficit on the budget letter was around $9 million. And as it stands, we're going to end up running a year that's more like $700,000, that we will be less on our fund balance than what we had last year. So it's very close to break even. Right now, the original budget shows this 5.6 number at the bottom, but it is very likely that we're going to come out substantially better than what that 5.6 number is. It's just included in there as a function of overestimating our expenses and underestimating our revenues.
I
So,
would make a note though, since we've had 2 solid years of tax stream staying the same and staying steady, we do have a good historical knowledge there. So in this proposed budget for revenues, I was kind of less conservative than what we've done in the past 2 years, but also more realistic when it comes to that. So I just want to, we are keeping a conservative approach, like the mayor said, but we are kind of looking more of like what we're actually spending, what we're actually going to be receiving there too.
So anyway, we just wanted to present it to you also.
Right.
you all have an understanding. So that might be a page you might tab, well, you have it on your computers, but that might be one you reference back as we're having these conversations. So we will have.
Can I also bring something else up too? And not that we should do this, but what we have done in the past also is we've done a potential raise based on mid-year budget review. And so, we could do something like that where if we meet certain benchmarks in the middle of the year, then we award an extra raise at that point in time based on what our benchmarks are. And that might be the most prudent approach when we're looking at this to do it again this year. If we get mid-year and we're working out better than what we thought, and we'll have a better idea of what's going to happen over the next 6 months, that might be the time where we can approve that raise. If we're not meeting where we need to be, it might be the time to leave that raise the same. But going back to what Commissioner Pruitt said right at the beginning, I do worry about not keeping up with inflation. The inflation rate's higher than what we're offering our employees as a raise. So, whatever we can do to get that number in there, I'd appreciate too.
So what I'm hearing y'all say is y'all do want us to go ahead and add the 1% now. What you were talking about with mid-year was separate.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's for the future, yeah.
Yeah, just for in the future when we have this conversation.
Okay.
If we have a year where we're just kind of uncertain, it might be prudent to start out with a lower raise with the idea that we're going to do one at mid-year and one at the beginning. And then that mid-year raise can go up or down depending on how we're doing with our budget.
Okay.
This time, I don't think we're going to be able to do that this late with the budget, but maybe in future years.
Okay. All right. Understood. All right. Anything else? Okay. Was there anything else related to personnel? We'll get more into the details and the specifics when we get to each department. Okay. If not, let Ms. Mills take it away with the capital summary.
All right, so before we go into the department specifics, I want to give you kind of the broad overview of how much capital that we're planning to have in this proposed budget for you. And then if you guys have any questions when it comes to that, we can discuss it during the department head level there. But included in this budget for all funds, it's about $12.2 million worth of capital stuff. So as you can see on the spreadsheet or on the presentation, we have about $1.5 million going to vehicles. We have $200,000 for machinery and tools. We have a large portion that's new this year that IT will talk about for new data processing equipment. We have upgrades to gas main lines and new sidewalks and streets. And then we also have buildings and improvements of about $8.5 million. But of that capital summary, almost 1.8 is being funded by the general fund. And then a large portion of that $12 million relates to major construction projects that we have going on. And so, I don't know if you want to talk about the capital stuff, but
Yeah, we can hit on it real quick.
the capital summary. So on page 111 is kind of the capital project summary by fund. And so on the screen right now is a few conceptual projects that we have in the proposed budget here. And so one new one that we have in there is the park shelter at Newman Park. I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, so one of the projects, we presented on this a while back, probably a couple of years ago, and we had the design, and the pricing kind of increased a little bit, but we have assigned reserves for this project, and I think we've included about $750,000 in this budget for this project, and that's coming directly from assigned reserves. And so we proposed that as a project, I believe in our Parks Master Plan work session. I believe at least one or two of you all actually mentioned that project. And the good thing about this project is, it's when we're talking about the Parks Master Plan, sometimes it's hard to, we actually tried to tally the votes, and it's difficult because some projects aren't exactly apples to apples. This is a project that I feel like would meet a lot of the needs of our community. It could be used as an outdoor farmer's market. It could be used for small concerts. It could actually be used for special events such as weddings and the such. You could fit, I believe, 6 pickleball courts in here. The way I look at this, I call this a multi-use structure. It's basically 2 high school basketball courts side by side. So almost imagine a big structure covering what you have at the JFK outside those basketball courts. You could have 2 soccer courts. You could have, I think we're showing six, I believe 6 basketball courts, like you go to a big church and they got basketball goals all the way around. So that's something that we have in there. Once again, the money is there in the assigned reserves, and so we've just put it in this budget for your all's consideration. We've already talked about the transfer station, that's the picture in the upper right corner. And then in the lower right corner, we have the fire station, which we're obviously hoping to finish up here in a few months later this year. We've also included money, we have some residual funds left over for the sports complex. Do you know what that number is? 300,000 to 400,000, I think?
Yes.
So, where's that? Oh, 563. Yeah, so we have 563,000. 112. Okay, good, one page over. We've got about $563,000 in the budget for the sports complex. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that is remaining bond funds that were
Yes, that's correct.
we received for the sports complex. Mayor, that is where if we end up doing the drive-in project, where those funds would come from. There's also some miscellaneous things at the sports complex that we need to do. There's still ongoing projects that I'm working with Mr. Washington and Mr. Simmons and Ms. Basham to do odds and ends things out there. They're just, we're still trying to wrap up construction, even though there's still odds and ends we're doing. So those are the main ones. As I mentioned earlier, we've got $500,000 in there for the Parks Master Plan, kind of as a placeholder. We've got funds in there for the Audubon Park Access Road, HVAC improvements, and I'm reading this from page 112. And then we've got the Anthony Brooks Park renovations, which I already mentioned earlier as well. So we've got some good projects in there that we're trying to complete. A lot of that, some of it's coming from the general fund, but a lot of it's coming from the state and/or reserves and/or grant money. So, we've got a lot going on, but fortunately, we've got some revenues coming in to offset that.
Do we have a hard date on Anthony Brooks starting?
So here's where we're at with that, and if anybody in the audience.
Well, it seems like we've been talking about this thing, I don't know what, from years.
Oh, we have been, yeah.
Yeah.
Because the grant money.
Yeah, I know it took
We
so.
still haven't got permission, as far as I know, to this day, from the federal, we're waiting on National Park Service, I believe, to give us permission to start. Now, the good thing is that you're not supposed to have, and I think I mentioned this before, you're not supposed to have 2 land and water grants open. I do not think that I don't think they are withholding approval from us for this reason, but I'm saying this because I think it's good. We should have our current land and water grant, which is at the sports complex and playground. That should be wrapped up in the next month or two. So I don't think National Park is withholding approval from us because of that. But the fact that will be done in a month or two would allow us to then, if we still don't have approval at that point, we're going to push them really hard. And that's probably where, Mayor, we could probably make some calls to
I'll be
some
happy
U.S.
to.
congressmen
Yeah, yeah.
and start. We haven't pushed too hard yet because we didn't want to draw attention to the fact that we have 2 open. And of course, that wasn't our fault. The reason we have 2 open is because there was unfortunately tragic loss at the state level from DLG, and there was a lot of backlog, and that's kind of what has caused the initial delay. The government shutdown also, apparently, they used to have a number of people review at National Park Service, and then they got reduced. So we're hoping that now that things are getting moving again, that we hope that within we've been saying it, but we hope that they would give us permission within the next few months, and we're going to really, once this other one's done, we're going to really start pushing, if that makes sense. So
Still looking like fall this year.
yeah, our hope is to still break ground this year. I mean, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you all already started putting bid packages together and soliciting. So everything will be geared up and ready to go. We're actually taking steps that we otherwise normally wouldn't take before we have permission, but I think we've gotten at least permission to go ahead and do that as we're waiting on the final go-ahead, so.
And we've got that in the fall. The fire station's ahead of schedule from what I understand. We had originally targeted spring of next year, but I think there's a good chance it's going to be done this year. Is that right?
Yeah, Chief Dixon, what's the latest date?
I'd say the estimated date's probably late November when you say Buzzy.
At the latest, it'll probably get turned over probably October,
Uh-huh.
at least about a month or so for punch list items.
There we go. And then the conference center at Audubon is going to be in either fall of this year or spring of next year, groundbreaking too. Yeah. So we got a lot of things just kind of, we've had to get our money right, and once we did, then we're able to move forward.
So that's the construction capital. We'll deal more with the departmental capital as each department comes up. Is there any questions about any of that, concerns?
I think the shelter, it looks fantastic. And it also, if you remember, we first started talking about multi-sport courts back the first year of the intercity improvement plan. And it's just such an expensive project. It takes a little bit of time to work it into a budget. But I'm happy to see it. I think people are going to absolutely love it, Dylan. It looks great. And I'm excited to move forward on that one too, so.
Okay. Well, with that, we will move into administration, and we're going to try to hit these quickly. Notes. All right, so. All right, so we're going to try to hit these kind of quick. Department heads, if you're here for administration, we'll call you up, but we're going to try to roll through. We've got, I think, 12 different subcategories under administration, so we'll see if we can't make up some time. All right, so Mayor City Commission budget, what page is that on, Chelsea?
It starts at page.
If you've got your budget in front, you should be able to click on the little tab and see Mayor and City Commission budget. Not much has changed in that one. One thing I am going to just note, just as kind of an FYI, is we typically do service pins starting at, I think, 20 years. We talked with staff. It's rare nowadays to have someone who sticks around for 20 years.
That's right.
So we're actually going to start doing that in a 5-year increment. So we added a little bit of money. It was only like, I think, $2,000 in y'all's budget, but we added some money in there for that so that we can start recognizing employees on a 5-year increment. So that's something we will change effective July 1. We'll give everybody who hasn't reached that 20-year mark the most recent one, and we're still figuring out how to do that, whether we'll do that in commissioning or not. But starting July 1, you know, with your all's approval, we'll start doing 5-year increments and hopefully get some of these faces up here a little bit more frequently so we can, recognize our employees. So if there's no question on the mayor city commission budget, we'll move on to city manager.
And the city manager one is on page 132 of the budget.
So for the city manager, not a whole lot has changed in that one. The biggest thing that I'll note on that is I knew that we had 2 people leaving in our department relatively soon or planned to leave relatively soon. It took me a couple days to realize that was going to be almost at the exact same time. So our assistant city manager position and our executive assistant position are both looking to leave earlier next calendar year. And so we've included some money in that budget. So if you see the salary number inflated, that's why. It's because we've included some overhire time for those 2 positions, which are obviously very critical to the city.
How much time was included for the new assistant city manager role?
Do you know, Chelsea?
I believe it was 6 months.
Probably 6 months conservatively.
It was
Okay.
roughly 4
Yeah.
to 6 months there.
Okay, and then if we do a January hire date, then that's going to hit right on it.
Yeah.
Just wanted to, while we're discussing it, I think July would probably be a target month for us to post that.
Okay.
Does that match up with what you were thinking
Yeah,
also?
I think if yeah. I mean, I guess if we have 6 months in there, that would give us, we could theoretically have someone in there for all the way through September, from starting September, so.
Well, we
I don't know
don't-
how early you all want them here.
Well, if we do, in my mind, and that's why I wanted to talk about it, in my mind, what it would be a 2-month open application process, a 2-month interview process, and then working toward a higher date of January would give us a 2-month negotiation process.
Okay.
Is that close to what you guys are thinking, or you think it's something totally different? I just want to be prepared for it.
No,
when it
I
comes
think
up.
that's fine. I mean, that would give us, if Mr. Newman's planning on leaving in February, that would give us about 2 months. So you're not gonna hear me argue about having that person here even a little bit longer to learn under him, but
Yeah.
I think July is reasonable. I mean, we're middle of May now anyway, so I think that's reasonable.
Well, that'd be one thing. If we've got 6 months budgeted, I don't really want to go over that 6 months, because if
Well-
we're talking about already adding stuff for employees, which
So
we should.
So when we talk about 6
It's
months,
6 months
Of overlap.
Of overlap, so we have,
so if Buzzy were to leave in February, then you would have those next 4 months as a single.
Gotcha. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you,
so
thank you,
if
thank
they
you,
were to
thank
hire
you.
in January, it'd be roughly 2 months.
Yeah, not-
Okay.
Not as much as they're.
Okay,
So
thank you for
theoretically,
clarifying.
You could
Yeah,
be a little
because-
bit more aggressive. if
Yeah,
you
yeah,
wanted to.
Yeah.
So we were just more conservative with the approach with the salaries there, if someone were to be hired
Sure.
just right off the bat for 6 months, but.
Gotcha. Good deal. Thank you guys for clarifying
We
that. I
will
appreciate it.
definitely, we'll lean on you all heavily for how you all want that process to flow and when you want it to start. We'll have conversations
Okay.
about that, so. Okay, so that was pretty much it for city manager. Any questions on that one before we move on? City attorney, Dawn, is there anything you want to point out on yours? I know you got the position.
Yeah, so we are I think during the retreat, couldn't think of the word retreat, I gave you all the numbers for open records. And so our open records just continue to go higher and higher, and that's a 5-day turnaround. So I'm asking for a 10-hour position. It's really a half part-time. It's a part-time person, but we can share it with Megan's to try to help us stay up to date with those numbers and just continue. But it's not enough to do a full part-time person, but we need the extra coverage. I had a secretary senior 2 years ago when Teresa was here. We changed that back to just a secretary. So actually, the 10 hours is going to get me back to on my payroll about what I was when Teresa was here. But that's going to help us have some flexibility on trying to make sure that we are not constantly running behind on open records.
Everybody good with that? We're also being a bit more demanding of Dawn in her office with one specific project. When we asked at the beginning of the year that we review all of our codes and compare them to communities around us so that we can make improvements to our codes to make it a more business-friendly environment to build in and operate in, that's a big task. Lots of hours, and Dawn's office is taking that on full head of steam. So, if you need it, I'm certainly in favor of it. Thank you.
Okay. If there's no other questions on city attorney, we will head over to city clerk. Jessa, I don't know if there's anything you want to particularly point out on yours.
Not really, no.
Yeah. If y'all have any questions, feel free to speak up, or if not, I didn't have anything specific I wanted to highlight either. With that, if there's no questions, we'll move on to safety. We didn't have a, Mr. McFadden, you can come up if you want. I don't know if we'll have any specifics. One thing I will note is we had money budgeted last year for a follow-up mock OSHA audit. We did one in 2020 during COVID, that's why I remember that. And we didn't end up getting it done this year with the transition between Sam and Michael, so we've budgeted that again for next year. It's basically where we hire a third-party consultant to come in and review all our facilities and find anything that an actual OSHA inspector might, so that we can, not just avoid deficiencies, but also make sure our people are safe. We did, that we note that there, we had a temporary overhire position, basically for succession planning purposes, we eliminated that, so that's really the big change there. Are there any questions on the safety budget, concerns? Okay. Thanks, Michael. All right, next up, we'll go to community development, and I would like to invite, do HR first? Oh, yeah, did I skip? Okay, we'll do, oh, sorry, we'll do human resource starters. We'll come back to you in just a second. All right.
We're gonna go to the HR budget on page 151.
So as Don mentioned, we are proposing a split secretary between legal and HR. So in HR, they would help with a lot of our clerical duties and filing and things like that. And we'll of course be flexible with Dawn when she has a lot of open records. So we think it's gonna be helpful and a benefit for both departments. And then I'm also requesting an overhire. We have a benefits coordinator that is retiring, so we have a few months of overage on that. It's a pretty important position, and we're hoping to be able to get the right person in and get some training.
Right.
I do want to touch on benefits just a bit. As you know, health costs are just continually increasing, and we are not looking to change anything major for employees. We want to keep their level of coverage the same, but we are looking at different options to be able to reduce the costs for the city. So we are in a bid process right now for health benefits. Again, those are not to change anything major, minimal disruption for employees, but they are being evaluated currently, and we're hopeful that we'll get some options that give us some cost savings without changing any of the benefits to employees. So we'll keep you updated throughout that process. We should get some information back later this month, and then hopefully come to you with some of our ideas on that.
Any questions for Megan or her budget?
Just wanted to point out two things. One, I've been really impressed with how you and your office and city management has dealt with succession planning. And I know that that's part of your budget where you asked for an overhire there for the benefits coordinator. So keep doing what you're doing there. It's working in terms of being a seamless transition for department heads. And two, I just wanted to point out, City of Henderson has one of the best, if not the best, healthcare plans of any city in certainly the state, and we're definitely in the upper echelon in the United States. While we do need to do things like what you're talking about, look for ways that we can save money, I just wanted to take the time to point that out because a lot of times people just point at salaries and they don't necessarily point at the benefits package. And so if we can remain competitive with salaries, but then also keep that excellent benefits package, then we're really giving the employees something that they can be proud of and a reason to come work for us. So thank you.
Yes, thank you.
I just want to add one thing. We discussed a little bit about maternity leave for women.
Yeah.
How far do we get, or is anybody in favor of looking at that?
So-
Especially since Holly, that part came up.
So great question. I'm glad you asked that because I asked Megan, so we don't have a formal parental leave policy for maternity or paternity leave. However, what we do have is we have a lot of policies that work really good together to create that type of situation. So I asked Megan to kind of give an overview of what policies we have. And, you all know a few months ago I presented on all these other policies. So they've been working on those policies, but in the meantime, I have asked Megan to prepare a summary of not how, like I said, we don't have an official parental leave, but how people who have been on parental leave have used our existing policies to benefit them. And honestly, I think we can talk about it now or if a separate, we're probably ready to get some additional feedback from you all to see what you all want. I think what we need to do is present to you all how it works with our existing policies and then get feedback from you all, whether that's sufficient, that's not sufficient, what you would like to see, because that's what we have prepared today. Because I did ask Megan and staff to pull like all the people that we've had go on parental leave for like the last,
Last 3 years or
and she did analysis to see, okay, based on the policies we have, like, because we have a sick leave sharing policy that allows you to receive up to 480 hours of donated time that basically any city employee can donate to you if you meet the criteria. And a lot of our people who've gone on parental leave of some sort have utilized that.
I think what might be most effective, it's okay with the two of you, let's treat it like an ordinance review.
Okay.
And so bring to us the changes that you think make sense, and at one of the next 2 or 3 meetings.
Yeah.
And we'll do it at the end of a meeting. You can present to us what your thoughts are, give us a chance to give feedback, and then we can either vote on the changes, or if it's administrative, we can give you the go-ahead to do it administratively.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can certainly do that.
Something real quick when we're talking about benefits, I know you get paid out for unused days, correct?
For vacation.
For a vacation,
Yes.
I mean, but, like, for my employer, they also have an option to purchase a vacation, 1 day up to 5 days, so a week, where you as the employee can, like, purchase an extra day of vacation, which way more people utilize that one than that on the flip side, so maybe just something to
So how does
think
that,
about.
we can talk offline, but I'd be curious to hear more about how that works, or if you have a copy of the policy.
I can get that
Oh,
for you.
yes, yeah, you can share that.
Purchase.
I'll buy as many as I can.
Really cool policy.
Yeah.
That's the first I heard that. Buy some vacation time.
Yeah,
Thank you, ma'am.
We'll work on that as well.
Safe travels, Megan.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, so next up, Ms. Brescia Pruitt, we'll talk about community development.
As she's coming up here, I just want to mention, so, we have 2 different pots of money here with community development. So we have community development where it's internal stuff to run our CDBG fund, and then we have CDBG, like as administration, and then we have CDBG funds that come federally. So I just wanted to give that brief overview in case you guys were wondering about that.
So Brescia, if you just want to give kind of a brief, I know you don't have any personnel or capital requests, but if you just want to give a brief overview of, I think what would help, we've learned a lot about CDBG in the last few months, and if you want to talk a little bit about what, I know we've updated on timeliness, and then also what we've done for the public service and administration costs, how there's a certain percentage for both of those.
So with CDBG funds, you have 20% that goes towards administration, and that's 20%, nothing less, nothing more. You have to have 15% that goes towards public service slash nonprofit, nothing more, nothing less. And then every year you get a certain amount. So this year, in the past, we were under probation due to timeliness. That meant that we had 3.5% of the total that we had in our CDBG account that we hadn't spent, and so we brought that down to 1.3 as of today. So we are out of probation completely.
And one thing that we're, Ms. Pruitt and myself and Ms. Mills and Mr. Neiman have talked about is, for the longest time, for the public service money, it always went to the same organizations, and there was no cycle to like re-examine, is this what they should be going to? And so what we've talked about is, and what Ms. Mills has listed up there under CDBG fund, you'll see Father Bradley at the top and listed some others. We've named specifically, which we'll get to the United Way recommendations later, but what we're going to recommend for CDBG is the funds that go towards those public services following a similar process. So Ms. Pruitt would work with the organizations who want to get some of that. So you would have the funding that goes to United Way, and you'd have the CDBG. And the reason is United Way is really good about doing the tracking, the applications, making sure that organizations are eligible. So what we had talked about doing was, if there's an organization that wants to get that CDBG public service money, they would go through that same process. It's just they would get awarded money from CDBG pot of money versus the general fund United Way funding. And so what you see here, you'll remember in one of our previous meetings, we had told you all the list of organizations that we wanted that money to go to. That was for the current fiscal year. What we have proposed here is the list, and this is in the CDBG fund, is the list of organizations that we're recommending those 20% of funds go to. There is one that we will have to come back to you all for approval. There's 7,500 that we unnamed because it's a couple organizations that we have to make sure are eligible for like religious purposes, that sort of thing. And this is something you and I will talk more about this later as well. But we'll need to get them to fill out an application to say what they're actually going to use those funds for, to make sure it's an authorized purpose, not just for your benefits, but also for tax dollars. So.
It kind of just aligns up with what one of the goals that we talked about in January when I presented to you all. Community development is not seen in the public on a big scale. A lot of projects that are going on in the community, they don't know that it's coming from CDBG funds. And so by spreading the money to different organizations, it helps everybody in the community get funds and to be acclimated with community development.
And the religious exception is something we've dealt with before. For example, several years ago, Marcia's Place. We gave $5,000,
Yes.
but it wasn't to Marcia's Place. It was to an ultrasound machine that they would be using. Same thing with Salvation Army. Remember the one year where we funded the Thanksgiving lunch, and then we went and served at the Thanksgiving lunch? We were allowed to do that because we funded something specific, and that's how we get around some of the red tape of not being able to help people with organizations with religion that are involved.
So this year, we've gone through, we kind of laid the groundwork for the process we have to follow next year, and so that's why everything's a little bit, we didn't have time to fully vet those before the draft budget came out, but next year, we hope to make these decisions around the time when other organizations would apply to United Way, so we would have plenty of time to build it into the budget, so. Okay, any other questions for community development or CDBG?
Now, CDBG is connecting the sidewalks on Sand Lane, where we put them in at. How's that working out with that connection?
So they did fairgrounds across, and then also across the street to Sand Lane, so that was part of CDBG. So community development, like they said, is administration, and then community development block grant is where those funds came from.
Okay.
Good deal. It was a big deal getting over that probationary period.
Yes.
Yes.
Because there were definite consequences if we had not.
Yes.
And so thank you very much for you and Dylan and Buzzy and everybody involved for getting us off that probationary period and getting us back in good graces and good status. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, well, if there's no other questions, we will move to code enforcement. Mr. Davis, do you mind coming up here and maybe we've already talked about his big one, but Steve, I don't know if you have anything else you want to add. I know the biggest thing for you is we've included some money this year for the modernization of codes and reviewing the codes and comparing them to other communities.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest thing that we got going on. Obviously, we've been asked to help with code revision. We are honored, one, to be a part of that, but also see the great need for it. Our budget totally reflects that. If you would, I mean, I don't know what you guys got in front of you, but one of our pages on the last page of the detailed account information, you'll see that we've actually added.
It's page 157, probably.
Yeah. Page 157 of the
Yeah,
budget.
there you go, sorry. You see, we've added a temporary seasonal help for ordinance revision. That is something we are asking for a part-time position, for someone to help us actually do research. It's a big task. We're looking at rewriting all of the Appendix A, or at least revising it. And I've been working on parking, and if you've even looked at what we've got around us, I mean, I've been working on that for a month, just myself, and it's a big task.
It's so needed. I'm
I
so,
know
I'm
it
so
is.
happy you guys
I
are doing
totally
it.
agree with you, 100%. I mean, it would help me with phone calls all day long to
Yeah.
get them, and then not being able to tell people, oh, you can't do that there, you can't do that. You know, I'm with you. I think we need it. I'm gung ho. I'm ready for it, but it may take more than a year.
Yeah.
Just so you know, we're going to ask for a little grace on how long it takes us. And we have added a little money. I think that we throw a little more money at it, we can get it done a little quicker for you. We are excited about doing it. I really am, because it will really, again, save the city, help us with business, help our department with actually approvals for more people. We want to see things done in Henderson. I'm invested. I mean, I got kids here.
That's right.
I don't want them to move away, you know what I mean? And I want it to be a better place for them than when I lived here. So anyway, we've also added, if you see on, I don't even know if this is in there.
Well, probably not for traffic.
For travel, we actually added a little bit for research, going to different communities and looking how they do it. It's one thing to see how they have it on paper. It's another thing to see how they're actually doing it in the real world. So we put a couple trips there to go to different cities that we are working on. I know Dawn and I are really into our
Tiny
needs with
homes.
tiny homes right now. They are hard to find. We have looked all over the place. If you've done research, they're out there.
Are they hard to find because they're tiny?
Good one.
I was going to start this with a joke. I was dying to start this with a joke. I'm glad you did that.
Okay.
It kind of breaks the
Yes.
Anyway, yeah, no, it's not. They're not that small. But yeah, no, they're usually used for rehab or transitional homes for soldiers or things like that. A lot of places don't really have true communities that are tiny home communities, so they're hard to find. We will definitely be a forerunner when it comes to that in our city. So
And when you say that, because I've been talking with Dawn about that a lot, they are actually working with people to sort of reinvent what tiny home communities look like in communities, period, not just in Henderson. But, they've gone and done a lot of research with people who do these and found, like storage issues, for example, and other issues that come up in those communities, and fighting them on the front end instead of on the back end. I really like the work you guys are doing there.
I think you'll be impressed. I'm saying that. This isn't wood, but I think you'll be impressed at what we're coming up with. We have a top-notch team. Really, honestly, Dawn is top tier. Anna Marie is also top tier. She's a great researcher. So we're excited. I'll say that. I am. Let me say I'm excited. But that's what we're asking. Okay. Basically, we've trimmed a little bit here and there, but you'll see that it's pretty much the same. A demo number count is down a little bit this year because of the amount of time, et cetera, and amount of money it takes. Construction costs are really high. But
Steve, could you and Don try to find a community that's using tiny homes for homelessness to fix the
That's
homelessness?
actually easy to find. That is what most, not that you all want to go into it, but tiny homes are used mainly, or tiny home communities that are around us. A lot of them are transitional housing to try to help homeless transition into more permanent housing.
Like, we have one close that's for veterans, it's strictly for veterans, but that's like.
That may be an
And
option.
we've had a couple of developers reach out to us who have asked about putting in tiny homes for different reasons. And that's one of the reasons that they are working so hard on it. And so when they finally get that to us to look at, that's going to be one of the things that we can address through tiny homes is people who can't afford as much of a home or can't afford a home at all. The utilization of these types of communities to help with that issue is going to be pretty big.
Well,
So,
it's big on affordable housing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's huge. It's really what we're trying to battle, and it's an uphill climb, really.
yeah.
I think we do a great job in Henderson for the women, the women's shelter and all of that. But when it comes to our guys, I don't think we do a good enough job for them. They need more help.
Good deal. Well, thank you, Steve. Just one more quick thing before you leave. I really love the fact that you are so, well, you're so pleasant to deal with regardless, but how you're approaching this 2-year project that we gave you is very exciting to me because for years, Henderson has tried to become a business-friendly place, and for the most part, we are. But the last little piece of that puzzle is we do a good job of leading people to where they need to go and helping them abide by our laws. The last piece of that puzzle is to change our laws to come up to 2026 standards, and I'm glad that you guys are working on that. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
All right, we will move on to Hart next. Ms. Crystal, you're welcome to come up, but I'll go ahead and hit on the highlights, and if y'all have any questions. I already talked about kind of the whole being through the MPO versus the state as a direct recipient. Chelsea, I don't know if you want to add anything on I guess this is going to be our first budget where we're in the first full year without direct federal funding. So basically, before how it worked was, as part of the MPO, they were a direct recipient from the FTA. So we were a small fish in a big pond. Now, I guess, with us being, the state is a direct recipient, and then we're a sub-recipient to the state. So now we're kind of like a big fish in a small pond, I guess, type deal. So we draw a lot more attention. And like I said earlier, we're still kind of figuring out how that affects us monetary-wise. We have included, I think, how many vehicles did we include in this budget? There's 2. So we've requested 2 vehicles in this budget, but we are not guaranteed to necessarily get funding from the state for those, correct? Yeah, so the funding is a little weird. It kind of lags behind. Dawn or Chelsea may be able to speak more to that, but we do have an aging fleet. We do have need for additional buses. We were trying to get those buses, but a lot of that is because normally, what is our percentage, our cost share on the bus? Do you know? Yeah. Dawn, do you know if we're still 80-20 on buses, on new buses? Okay. Oh, we're still kind of waiting. So. Yeah, so that's just one of the things where, used to when we would present on Hart, there was not this unknown. We knew kind of what we were doing, and we're still figuring it out. But Crystal's doing a great job with Hart. And do you have anything else you want to add or touch on? You sure you have much to say?
You weren't here.
Okay. Crystal does do a great job. She does a really great job. Some great people over at Hart. And, it was where I first started my supervision, but anyway.
One comment that was consistent early on in this year's iteration of the Intercity Improvement Plan was to consider strategically placed covered bus stops in the intercity. And so if that is not in the budget, maybe we can use this year to kind of figure out what and where we're going to put those and put it in next year's budget. If we have extra room in this year's budget, it'd be nice to kind of see what we can do in that regard.
Certainly look at that. All right. Nothing else for Crystal? All right, thank you, Crystal.
Thank you.
Okay, next up we have engineering. Sebastian, if you want to come up, yeah. Do you have anything particular that you wanted to draw anybody's attention to under engineering?
No, everything's pretty kept the same. The only thing I could say is this past fiscal year, we added the project engineer as a part-time position, allowing Doug to come back, and that we still have the city engineer position open that we're working to fill.
as you all are probably aware, we brought our former engineer back part-time, and I don't know that he's in here, but we really appreciate him, and that's been a godsend, really. It's been great having him back. We do still we added that as an extra position, and we kept it in this year's budget, so we still are actively advertising for the engineer position. We've had a couple people apply recently. We actually had an interview scheduled the other day that they didn't show up to, so, it's the world we live in, I guess. But we're still actively trying to find that, but very fortunate to have to kind of plug that hole. Very, very thankful for that, so. There's no other questions for engineering, then we will move on to the next one, which would be the sports complex. Mr. Washington, if you want to come up to the table. I think you all met Mr. Seth Washington before. We introduced him for me. He's our new general manager. He took over for Courtney. You started officially in the GM role. How long have you been in that role now? March. Yeah. Seth is a bundle of energy. He actually has his expertise is in the food and beverage industry. He was actually our food and beverage coordinator, and SFC realized or recognized his talents, and so we kind of merged that position with the GM position to kind of hopefully save money. And then we've also recently hired Jason Denton. What's his official title?
Grounds manager.
Grounds manager. So he's taking care of all the grass. He just got started probably around
Right a month.
right a month ago. So anyway, so Seth is here. Seth's been doing a great job. We are still working very closely with Seth. As I kind of mentioned earlier, we're still kind of on the tail end of the construction project. Our big contract with ARC is still outstanding because there's still several punch list items that they're having to do. And so as we're trying to get certain fields and grass established for the first time, we're working with them, kind of helping with, we're still getting some equipment. We're actually in communication right now about trying to get a couple pieces of equipment purchased before the end of this fiscal year if we have funds available. We've got a couple Bermuda fields, and the Bermuda grass fields require a specialized mower, and so we've been working with him to procure those. Seth, do you want to tell them a little bit about how many tournaments we have scheduled for this calendar year and how things have been going?
Well, so for this calendar year, we've got 28 tournaments scheduled, and those weekends that we haven't filled, I'm working hard to try to get somebody here for those weekends. And those tournaments there are only on the baseball, softball side. So that doesn't even speak about what we can do on the soccer side once we get those fields rolling and that type of deal. So sky's the limit.
We do have, if you look at the budget, which is on page 100, and starts on.
Yeah, 172.
Yeah, 171, 172. With this, we say last year, I guess last calendar year, was our first full year. Well, actually, it wasn't because we opened in March, so it wasn't even our first full year. But this year, we're still, working through closeout. We're still trying to get some areas grown in. So we've included a substantial amount of money, kind of as a placeholder, like under botanical supplies. We've included $46,000. We've also included $48,000 under building repair and maintenance. I'll look at those as value-add items. We didn't really detail those out too much because we want to have money available should there be things that come up that we need to do or want to do. And so, those two numbers alone is about $100,000 that we kind of put in as a placeholder to just help finish up various things, in addition to the construction fund money of almost $600,000 that we have in the construction fund to do other miscellaneous projects. In addition to the drive-in we've talked about, there's also various sidewalks, concrete work. We've got the playground. Some of that money is for the playground that we're finishing up. We've also got, we've had poles out there to put nets behind the field goals and the soccer goals to keep balls in the playing area. So there's a lot of stuff like that we're still kind of wrapping up. Seth, do you have anything else that you think we need to?
No, I think you come to everything up after you did it.
Sorry, we're just trying to roll through.
Yeah.
Do you all have any questions for us or for Seth?
No,
What's our target food cost?
Target food cost, 30%.
And then just to reiterate where we're at as far as the budget-wise goes, one of the reasons I'm so excited to look at the potential drive-in theater and then maybe a billboard situation or whatever that ends up looking like, is just to provide some subsidy revenue for the park. Because you've already got a concession stand there, and so you've got ticket sales, concession sales, all those things that help get us closer to break even. And right now, our second year, we're projected to spend more than what we take in. but not a whole lot. And just to put it into perspective, when we decided to make the decision to shut municipal down, the golf course, we were averaging losing around $230,000 a year, or spending $230,000 more a year than what we took in. If you account for inflation today, we would be spending around $350,000 more on that golf course than what we would take in revenues. The sports complex in just its second year will be under that level. And so I like the trajectory that we're going. It's a big complex to get it down, to whittle it down to that number. And I think if we continue to work together and get the tournaments and get some subsidy revenue in there, we'll be operating much closer to break even going forward. Thank you. And thank you for having a groundskeeper come on board that I think is going to do some good, because we need it out there. We need some love. So, yep.
I will say too, while Seth's up here, I'll brag on him a little bit. He's done a great job at building relationships. You know, just going to say it. So at certain times, relationships with some of the users of that facility were a little rocky, and I think right now we've got a great relationship. Kudos to Seth and the organizations. I think we're in a really good place, and hopefully the complaints that you all may have received in the past are fewer and far between. I know I've had less conversations with you all about issues out there.
I just say, yeah, I mean, I've heard really good things that he's done. So.
I think Seth is doing a good job, and I also want to give kudos, Mr. Mark Simmons and Ms. Jenna Basham and Mr. Thomas Kenny. They are, the city is great. I've kind of taken a little bit of a step away. We still have weekly meetings, but others have kind of filled my spot. And in particular, Mr. Kenny, our parks director, he and Seth have really connected. And Commissioner Thomas, I know you got obviously experience in the food and beverage industry. You know, Thomas comes with years of experience from Chuck E. Cheese of all places, and he's got that mindset of that profit mindset. And so him and Seth working together has been a really beautiful thing, because they're constantly thinking about how do we make this more profitable. And one thing I appreciate about Seth too is I'm always asking, okay, well, at the soccer side, when we don't have deep fryers and stuff, what can we do to get more sales? He's like, listen, I don't want to do anything that hurts quality. Like, we got to uphold the quality. Amen. And so I do think that whereas I'm in this role now and I don't have as much time to spend at the sports complex, we got a new parks director and Seth who are working really closely together to make good things happen. So.
Concession money's where it's at.
Oh, yeah.
What's the most, I'm gonna put you on the spot, but gross, what are some of the days we've had gross on a tournament day?
So this year here, my biggest weekend was 425, 426, we're done $10,800. So that's just in 2 days.
That's moving
Just
stuff.
in concession stands.
Just in
Yeah,
concession.
that's
gross,
A lot of
right?
hamburgers,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a lot of hamburgers, a lot of hot dogs.
That's humping it right there.
Heck, yeah.
So, and it's what he told me yesterday, as his staff gets that down, we're gonna start adding offerings. Because, we wanna make sure we got quality. And then, I told him, so we need to work in a couple of the healthier options for, some people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just make them expensive.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, well, thank you, Seth.
More
Thanks,
prep,
Seth.
more labor.
Yeah.
All right.
If it's
so
healthy, it's
if
more.
you are okay, the last thing we have, I think, for this is non-departmental, which we'll talk about. And then if you all would like, we've been going for about an hour and a half. If y'all want to take a break,
We can.
we can take a break after this section, because this will put us done with administration. So,
No.
What page is that?
This is the next thing that we're talking about. It's going to be on page 192 and 193 of your guys' budget.
Okay. So, this is kind of our catch-all page, specifically 192. So on here, I've already referenced them a couple times. Used to, under 44 services at the top, outside agencies, we would actually list every organization that would get funding. That's why all those are blank now. But if you look at the bottom, you'll see United Way, 7,500, other outside agencies, 142.5. That is the money that goes to United Way. So then if you look on the next page on 193, there's a blue detail sheet which actually lists the organizations that United Way recommended. So that's the first section. The second section is what we refer to as our quasi-agencies. These are all organizations that are primarily joint funded between us and the county. A couple of you all, as well as the mayor, have either served on that committee or have attended those meetings. And so those recommendations have come via the joint city-county co-op. Each of those have been discussed. I've already talked about a couple of them. You'll see there economic development increased from the 50 to the 80. And then we are, a couple of these numbers, one or two of these numbers, we still need to finalize. We think it's close, but like the ambulance service, which we do We utilize Deaconess EMS. We are actively trying to get a meeting with them, so that number, could adjust slightly if we are able to meet with them before the final budget is presented. And then under special projects, this is kind of where we have a hodgepodge of different things. You'll see in there, we kind of put $70,000 for the opioid settlement funds as a placeholder. One thing that was talked about during City County Co-op and that the mayor and I have talked about since then is we need to be intentional with those funds. And I think CACO, if I'm not mistaken, has actually recommended that different communities create committees specifically dedicated to figuring out what those funds need to be used for. I believe Davis County, and this is just my opinion as city manager, but I think we need to partner with the county and look at doing something like that. I believe Mr. Steve Gold expressed a similar sentiment during the City County call, if I'm not mistaken. So that's just something that I would advise that we look at in the future. We've got a lot of funds now. We'll have a lot of funds in the future. And I would, just me personally, I would like to see us do something big and intentional with that money to make a true impact in our community rather than spending a little bit here and there and not really having. The difficulty lies, and Ms. Kelsey, feel free to speak up if I misspeak, but I mean, the difficulty lies in you're very restricted to what you can do. And some of these bigger things take intentional effort, they take time. There are things you can do. I know Davis County, I've got contacts over there. I've heard about some of the things that they've done, and I think they've got some cool ideas for how to spend some of their money. So just something that I would kind of suggest as a passing note.
Can we aim for July?
To do that?
Yeah, let's get through our budget session. If we don't set something up now, we'll be talking about it this time next year. So let's set up a time. If July doesn't work, maybe August. Get through the budget, get that approved, get into our new fiscal year, and let's start trying to create that committee on trying to use those opioid funds right then, because we've got them sitting there. We've got quite a bit of money. We can do some good in the community. Let's go do some good.
Understood. We will get on top of that. Economic development, there's the $100,000 that we mentioned earlier that we had kind of just as a placeholder. I believe, I don't think that's for anything specific, right? We just put it as a placeholder. Okay. Intercity improvements, you'll see the $300,000 there. The vision plan, $100,000 in there. Every year we put money in there. We did include a little bit more in there this year in case that, it's been 10 plus years since we did the last one. We put a little bit extra money in there this year in case you all decide that we may want to have a refresh of that for the future, since it has kind of gotten to the point where we've accomplished a lot, but it's been quite some time since we've done it. The homeless coalition, we have $20,000 in there for that. And then we have, this is where you'll also find the Ogden Park Conference Center, but we will probably go ahead and increase that to the 1.8 just based on when we think construction will occur. And then we have the Walton Lane ditch erosion, which that's a project. Fuzzy, that's the one we're splitting 50-50 with the water utility, right? That's the one right next to the Guitar Lake at the golf course, right? I don't know if you have anything you want to add about that.
It's just what turned out to be a issue with a public drainage way is turned into a bigger issue. It involves the lake that is on the Bridges Golf Course, and because it directly impacts water utilities infrastructure, it's something we had to make a decision that comes before any further work.
So you got a private drive, right, that serves several homes. Then you got a public ditch, and then you got our golf course with a levee with a lake right here, and there's danger of the levee breaching you got a few things going on. You got the worry for the ditch taking over the road. You got the worry of
There's a gas line.
Yeah,
and as well as a major sewer line. But that ditch takes all the drainage from Green River Road and all the way to Ogden Park. It all drains through this ditch. Eventually it's it's a decision we had to make. And usually that allocation would go country review, but we've all agreed we're going to take a break for 1 year and fix this problem.
So that pretty much covers the non-departmental. Chelsea, do you have anything, any of those you want to add? Oh, okay. Yeah, actually, and before we break, if y'all don't mind, we're going to go ahead and hit 911 because Ms. Webb does have somewhere she has to go. So we'll hit this one real quick, and then if y'all like, we'll take a break after that.
That'd be good.
drive over.
So, Dylan already stated, I've already presented this to the city plan co-op for those of you all that were there. But just briefly here, we do have an 8.9% decrease overall on our budget, and that's mainly due to the fact that we were able to finish up a lot of our major projects from the last couple of years. The CAD project and our 911 phone project have been completed. Not asking for any personnel, but we do have a couple of capital requests. However, last year our capital budget was $450,000, and now we're requesting $72,000. That'll be mainly for the kitchen upgrade. If you've seen the little kitchen outside of outside of 911 at the Peabody building, it's not very user friendly. So just requesting that we be able to update that. A lot of times we've had staff remain on site for severe weather and different things like that. So that'll give them, different opportunities for different types of meals and things. So the other request was for a vehicle to specifically support 911 for travel and training. We utilize the finance vehicle a lot, and then it's become where it's not available for some of our training. So we've been having to pay out gas money, so I think this will be a good plan moving forward. So other than that, I don't really have anything unless you all have any questions.
I have a question. So $72,000 for a kitchen upgrade?
No, that's together with the vehicle and the kitchen.
Thank you.
Yes.
That's what I thought. I heard.
That's what I heard. I was like, oh my gosh, yeah.
Read it.
No, we're good. Yeah, thank you, thank you. That's my only question. You're in good shape. Thank you, Mr. Wood.
All right, well, if you all would like, you all want to take a 5-10 minute break?
Yeah, it's 4:16. Let's get back together at 4:25 if that's okay.
Yep, that works.
All right, thanks.
Thank you all.
Look at that now.
All right, thank you. Welcome back to our budget work session. Dylan, it is your show again, sir.
All right, well, I'll invite Mr. Thomas Kenny up to the table, because he's got a Parks Board meeting here he's got to get to. So, Thomas, I'll let you take it away. I've got a few notes, but if you want to just kind of go over, just highlight, you know.
So, awesome. New position was, we went with a program and events coordinator. I'm basically asking for it. That will help utilize moving forward a lot of the programs and things that we're doing, and as we, I feel like with all the different things that, we're really partnering a lot right now with DHP, the chamber and all them. They've got a lot of events and stuff that they do, so I think that, the city will be more involved in them. And understanding what they're doing, moving forward in the future. Because what happens if some of those volunteers and stuff decide to step back or whatever, we need to understand what's going on. So that's why I kind of asked for that position right there. It'll also help with, so that person will understand pretty much everything about cemetery operations and stuff as well. So sometimes when you, like yesterday, I had someone who was actually out sick, and then, we deal with, I got stuck in the office, or somebody gets stuck in the office. So that'll really help out with that position, I believe. And so I'm kind of begging for that position, because I think it's going to be something that's really going to enhance the Parks and Recreation Department moving forward, and just let us do, I've got a list of things I want to do, but we can only do so much at once. And so this is kind of building on top of that as we move forward. The new division that we're asking for is community events, and so there's actually a budget for that we created. What I did with that is, right now it seems like anything was event related was attached to JFK. And so it looks like JFK is over fluctuated on their budget, when it's not. They're doing things that are for Halloween extravaganza or East End extravaganza, all those different things. So I felt like it needed to go into a new division, which will be called community events. And that position, program with events coordinator, will be in most, I think it's 75% of it is what we put into the labor into that division right there. Is that correct, Elsie?
Yes,
I think it was 75%.
If you all look on page 233, I asked Thomas to list some of those events that are new and things that maybe we already do, but you'll see like Easter egg hunt, movies in the park, Hayride, Arbor Day, Water Days, Candy Cane Hunt, Halloween, Central Park, Oktoberfest. So there are new events that he's wanting to host, and those will show up in the community events on the blue sheet.
Did I hear you sneak in an Oktoberfest in there? Is it?
I'll let him.
So yes,
talk
I am
about that's what his idea
actually,
is.
I asked for money this year for an Oktoberfest. I come from the military side, and so we always do an Oktoberfest. And so I actually got with the tourism and chamber, and I'm working through them as long as this gets pretty much approved. We already started working on some of the, I think we got a date already picked out. I think it was like September 27th or something maybe. And doing something down here downtown, and so Oktoberfest, everybody thinks it's in October.
I did too. That's why I gave you the look. I was like,
It's actually at the end of September. If you
Oh,
look at
right.
True Oktoberfest, it's actually the month of it's like September 21st to like October 1st, I believe, is when it actually runs. And so, we're trying to partner with some different people and different organizations to be able to do that downtown, and so it's looking really good. And again, I'm all about GAPs, which is grants, alliances, partnerships, and sponsorships. And so I've utilized that to be able to work with the chamber, work with the DHP down there, and work with tourism to be able to bring people in and just have great events. And so those are great people. We're working with those organizations, and they've been very pleasant to work with, and they've been very inviting to be able to have me kind of put some of the things out that I would like to try to help them with as well, and they can help us with. So that was community events. Total capital request was $97,000. Again, we're replacing another parks truck. Storage facility shed, that's pretty easy to explain. So I've spent this year alone probably over $15,000 that y'all let me reallocate money for on updating the Christmas in the Park. So a lot of stuff when you see with Christmas in the Park was falling apart. The train didn't even get out there this year, because I would not put it out there. I was like, that's a representation of us, and it didn't look good. Well, the train has been sitting at the old golf course for the past probably about 5 to 6 months. It's almost done. And so we've redone a lot of it, repainted it, put a lot of new wood on it. And so this storage facility shed is, we'll probably go out there, it looks like a fish street, it's like a 30 by 30 building or 30 by 45 building. It's not, doesn't need to have electricity in it, doesn't need to have air conditioning. It's a place to utilize and put a lot of this stuff in there that we're updating to keep it out of the rain and keep it out of the sun. So we're putting money into it. But, that program, Christmas in the Park, is not going anywhere. And so we need to update our stuff and make sure that we're taking care of our assets that we do. So I asked Bill, that's where that stuff sits right now anyway. It just sits outside in the rain. And I'm not okay with that. So and as we're using city taxpayer dollars to pay for things, I think we should try to, enhance that and make sure that we take care of that. So that's what that's for. And in the future, that could also be a place that, in the future, it could store train kind of stuff that we discussed, a while back. Atkinson Shelter number 2, renovation. So that's I got one shelter out there. I believe it's number 2. It's actually almost completely destroyed. So we tried to look at redoing it, what we can do to enhance it or whatever. It's beyond repair. So the best thing to be able to do is just, we got estimates. They came back between 24 and 27,000. It's just to repair that. So originally we thought about just taking it down. But if you drive through that park going lunch, you can't take that one down. That's that is one of the busiest shelters that everybody sits at and eats lunch at down there. Going today, the whole area is busy through there, so we don't want to get rid of that. Increased beautification efforts, cloverleaf.
Yeah, this is the stuff I talked about earlier with the cloverleaf beautification, the 2nd Street roundabouts, downtown. We're looking at putting together it's something you and I need to get on, but the Green Committee, there's so many things around our town that we utilize. Alliance partnerships, your acronyms, but whether it's the garden club, the high school, the master gardeners, there's a whole bunch of stuff across our city that we work together to partner with. And so there's just a couple of these things are new that we've listed on here as well.
In the perch area, if you look at that, it's got a lot of work that needs to be done down there. That's a great area for people to go and hang out at. And so as I've looked at that, that's an area that I felt like needs a re-enhancement. Just make sure we're taking care of that and replacing the wood and the paint and everything needs to be done on that. So
Let me stop you there real quick, Thomas. I'm glad you put the perch in there, 'cause I didn't know who's responsible for taking care
it's
of it.
ours. It's the city.
Okay.
So,
Who does the plan? We don't do the planning.
Yeah, I didn't know.
FFA.
planning committees.
Okay, I was gonna say, I didn't know whose job it was.
FFA.
There's 14 different planning committees together. But, if you, I got here in July of last year, and when you look at August and September and October, that thing is busy. I mean, people sit out there all the time.
They do.
So if you look at it right now, it's kind of to the point of like, no, we need to repair that. That needs
Right.
to be taken care of down there. So the new potential events for the community in our parks, and we've gone through those, some of the Oktoberfest, and just we look at our water days that we're going. We got one next Saturday. Pool opens on Saturday as well. And then we're doing a wet and, well, I'm not gonna say that. We're gonna say what I put it, inflatable days is what it's labeled as. So, but that's a water slide day down there. So we've got 3 water ones, and we got 2 that are out at Newman Park. They'll be just inflatable days. People
Awesome.
like those things. Those are things that people really enjoy, and so we're doing a lot of those types of things. And so I'm looking at doing some. I called it the other day, just something I kind of came up with. There's money in the budget for it, like dancing in the park or whatever. I asked the seniors when I had them just 2 or 3 weeks ago, the ambassadors, and they said we love something like that. And they said there's nothing for us like that. So just a day to have a DJ come down and go down here to Ottoman Park and dance in the park, or go over to JFK. And, you go down there on a Friday late afternoon around 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. My kids down there all the time. And they're playing basketball till 11, 11:30 at night. They're not hurting anything. Bring some music down there and make it fun. So those are things we're kind of adding in just to kind of, over the next year, just kind of spice up a little bit and have more community events.
Yeah, a couple other things I want to mention about parks real quick. We've already talked about the Parks Master Plan. I mentioned earlier the sports leagues request. So Thomas has kind of taken over that process where the recreational league, so that funding is included in the budget, the annual funding that we do, as well as we put a placeholder in there for certain projects, as I mentioned earlier. a couple things that we did, there were actually 3 things that Thomas requested. So you can see there his capital, but there were 3 other things that he requested that we wanted him to talk about to you all to see if there was interest, either now or later, but that we did not include in this budget. So if you're prepared, can you talk about, the one's a backhoe, so tell them a little bit about the
Yeah,
backhoe.
so the backhoe, we have one that's been sitting out there at the maintenance area for a while, that's complete beyond repair, with the transmission type thing. The other one is the same type of model, that is older that we have, it is working, but eventually that transmission is gonna be out of repair as well. There's something with that style that they can't really fix once it gets to that. So we use a backhoe for numerous different things in the cemetery. We don't dig our own holes in the cemetery, but we use it to be able to move dirt around and a lot of stuff on our trails as we develop Canoe Creek. Canoe Creek's a great area out there, so we use that. We use a skid steer out there too with one of the attachments that we're buying for that. It's utilized for a lot of things that are in the park, but in Central Park when we're doing different projects out there, and we're in the middle of, we just had to pull a bunch of, pine mulch and everything out because we got a new thing coming in, so we're putting that in tomorrow. So that's what that's for, but we have one that's working right now, and so I looked at it, sat there and said, okay, if we have to pull it, we can pull it, I get it, it's a budget, and so I'm a budgeting person, so that was one.
And that was about 160, I think.
That was 116, I believe, yeah.
Two questions. What are the operating, or how many hours are on it, and what's the turnaround time on ordering one until it gets in?
I can get that for you. Like I said, it's running right now. It's on its last leg according to our, our mechanics up there.
So part of our justification too was, they just got a new skid steer this year, I think, and we bought a lot of equipment, and we wanted to kind of see how that, filled the gap of the backhoe, and they have one that's functioning. Plus, we have several other apartments that have one, so if we needed one in a pinch,
Yeah.
We could borrow one. But if you want that information, we can get that for you.
No, honestly, if we've got others in the city's fleet
Oh, yeah.
that can be used in case this one goes down, that's really my biggest concern. Otherwise, you just ride it until it dies, and then we go after one if you need
Now, I'm
one.
not, I'm not saying Mr. Williams or Mr. Clayton would want us to commandeer one of them for a long period of time, but I'm sure if
Yeah.
the need arose and we needed to use it for.
Ours are old and on their last legs too. Now, Tim is supposed to do back over for us to use together, so he's not here right now.
We'll volunteer him. I think his got approved in the budget.
We do have some backhoes, but they've got some years on them too, so.
It sounds
But I
like,
believe in sharing as well. So if we were to get one and we had it and they needed it or whatever, I can care less. As long as it's city funds, it's
Yeah.
city taxpayer dollars. So
Right.
anybody can use it. It doesn't mean it's just got to be dedicated to Parks and Rec. And so that was one thing I'm trying to, I'm teaching as we move along, and we've gotten a lot more friendlier, I think, with Mr. Brian Williams back there and trying to help out with, they help us out, we help them out. And that's kind of the way it works. And so those are some things we've really worked on building that relationship as well.
well, that sounds like something that does open itself up to kind of reviewing the fleet and how it's managed and making sure that, if we've got a couple different departments who have backhoes on their last leg, how do we, in a cost-conscious way, replace those and share them at the same time? So,
Yeah.
So that's something, that's on there. You've also got the, of course, my train concept, everybody knows about it, everybody loves it already, tourism department.
Just to be clear, you all know what he's talking about.
Yeah, I
You know what
know.
he's talking about. Okay.
I do. I don't know if they do.
So what is the, give, so for the audience or someone who might be listening who
February
doesn't know, give a brief explanation of what it is and what the cost is.
So the train is basically it's a train, it's a tractor, it's a Kubota tractor, diesel tractor, 4-cylinder diesel, and it's take people around different places for events. You can, let's say you're over at JFK and you're doing East End Extravaganza and you're trying to get people from Newman Park over to the event. It's a way to utilize people for that. Let's say you're doing all these events, we're going downtown, and you're just kind of moving people around. You can use it for just a regular general section that you section off, and we're taking kids on train rides. It'll be the #1 thing around, I guarantee it. So everybody I've talked to, from the library to DSP, the chamber, to tourism, everybody loves the idea of it.
Do they want to pay for it?
It'll be in the parade, I'm sorry?
Do they want to pay for it?
Yes.
Well, that's a good question.
So you could put a Santa sleigh on it, you can use it on the thing, you've got it's got an ADA accessible spot on the very back, which is the caboose. And so it's set up with that. So the whole entire thing, which is 4 cars, the Santa sleigh, as well as the caboose with the upgraded, seats and stuff in there, with about 118 delivered. So that comes out of Georgia.
And how many people, like, this is not just for kids, this is for adults.
You can put adults in
How
there
many
as well.
people, with the number of cars you have, how many people could ride?
35 to 50, depending on how many, kids you have on there versus how many adults you have on there. So they got one in Hazard, Kentucky, and I talked to them down there, and they said, yeah, we've already had to order 2 more cars. So, because it's that popular of a thing down there. So I knew it was popular because I had one in Fort Hood, Texas, and we brought it out there. I was told to take it to every single event we had. Then we started utilizing it to get people into our July 4th celebration and our different events we had in. Because we were like, hey, we need to use this thing. Like, okay, so we use it to mobilize people. As far as street safety, there's no issues with that. I've already worked with the police department. I've worked through on the legal side, looking at all that, because you put this nice little thing on the back and it's a tractor, because it is a tractor, so that's number one. So that gets us away from being on the street. And then it's also, you can put the turn signals and all that type of stuff on there and lights on the back, so that's not an issue. Great concept, great thing, but I get it. If there's not money in the budget, then we pull it or whatever. But I'll tell you, everybody I've talked to about it, and all the different partners that we have and stuff, they love the idea of it. So anybody's gonna want to drive that thing. I mean, you can put your overalls on it, or the
Train conductor overall?
yeah, there you go. Type of overalls. And so they're a lot of fun. So it's automatic, so easy to drive.
Well, and I'll take over. So Commissioner Witt, to your question, so personally, this is Dylan talking as a dad who lives in the community, not as a city manager, but I think it's a cool idea. However, what I told him, and honestly, I don't think the price is that bad, but what I told him is we did decide not to include it in the budget. And to your question, Commissioner Witt, this is not something we've done a lot of in the past, but it's something we're doing more now. We continue to talk about more with the sports complex and the Parks Master Plan is sponsorships. This is something that I could very easily see somebody sponsoring. So what I had kind of advised him to do, but I wanted to make this, I wanted to present this to you all so see if you all agreed or not, was I advised him to not put it in this budget, but see if he could, generate some interest and maybe some sponsorships for this over the next 6 months, and maybe look at potentially adding this in as a bigger budget. And if he could get a we could put out a, Ms. Kelsey, we could put out an RFP or something for naming rights or sponsorships or something for this, and just see what we get back.
It's possible that we could do that. Private partner.
And I can show pictures of the concept plan
Worth
and
a
all
try,
that
yeah.
type of stuff for that.
So just a quick question, and it comes back to this. Are we submitting for the Trails Grant this year in May?
We intend to, yes.
Okay.
I know we've talked about a couple of projects.
Well, and when you get to, so it's not going to be a point, it's really kind of a moot point if we're already got some submissions, but because this is motorized, and because it would basically be used as not on a trail, but to create a trail moving people back and forth, on the Trails Grant, they actually have to use 30% of that grant to go toward motorized trails and trail type things. And so they a lot of times have problems getting to that 30% mark. And so it's easier to get funding for that. And so if we're still sitting here next year and we don't have a train and we don't have a sponsor and we've got that open and we're not going to turn in a submission, could be a submission worthy thing for the National Trails Grant to fund.
And we can actually use this on trails as well. It's a
Yeah.
tractor.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
as long as you have wide enough areas, it can go on grass, it can go, so you'd have to make sure you measure that out, make sure that you can get through for safety reasons on the trail, just make sure they're big enough, but we did it at Fort Hood, we had them all over the place, so.
Well, as a father in the community like Dylan, honestly, I think it would be a great idea, not just because it'd be something fun for kids to ride, but it seems like it would enhance a lot of the events that we have that are meant for the public. And so if you're talking about using public money for something that would improve things for the public, not just downtown, but everywhere in the community, I'm not completely opposed to trying to find a way to get this done. So.
And I think it would be the number one attraction when you go around kids and that train ride.
They love them, so.
They love them.
And then the third thing that was on there that was I went to my parks board and they were very interested in an idea that I had in the future. You guys had it down here at one time, y'all rented a synthetic ice skating rink. You pay about $15,000 to $20,000 just for one weekend for that. I can buy the whole entire thing for $97,000. So that's a pretty large one. When you look at the other thing we were putting out at Newman Park, that's $750,000, that'd be a nice flat area. You could actually put it out there. You could use it in the wintertime, you could do Christmas in July, which could be another event. I don't know if you've ever heard that, but people do Christmas in July.
Right.
You could bring out that, you could stick it in there for, you know, a couple weeks or a couple weekends or whatever. So you actually build this thing, put it together. Gets built in about a day. It's, you know, sections that you put together, whatever. That's with the fencing around. That includes the skates and all. But you can use this for multifunctional too. So you can use it for, you know, people want to, you know, for regular ice skating, number one. Then you got, what am I thinking, hockey type people. And it's synthetic ice, so it's not real ice. That's what you get. But they're very popular. So a lot of cities are going with these now. They're starting to put them out there. You know, so you can rent them. If you rent them, that's great. But you're paying for something that you can go ahead and buy after 3 or 4 years. So why wouldn't you, you know, so if that's something we want to look into for a possible event. And you don't have to have it just out there. You can, you know, move this around. As long as you have a flat surface. And you can build it bigger if you want. So if you buy the big one and you want to make it a little bit smaller, you can do that as well. So.
If you could produce some kind of cost model that showed us renting it out potentially once or twice a year to help pay it back, that might help move that one along pretty decently.
Other communities. And I told him the same thing on the train. Once again, I think it's a great idea, and that's another thing that I think I could see somebody sponsoring the event. But I think that's good too. You know, we could potentially provide, I guess, a price to rent it out. I know you have to check with insurance and figure all that out, but yeah. So anyway, if there's interest, we're not recommending including it in the budget unless you all say otherwise. But the intent would be is let Thomas over the next 6 months try to work something together and see if we can't make that, you know, at least reduce our costs on what it might otherwise cost us for us to spot outright.
Yeah, I kind of like to see it too, analysis of if we could start renting it, because there could be organizations, there could be other cities, say, hey, can we rent you guys skating thing out for us for this weekend? That might be good.
It might help, yeah.
Yeah.
Help that one along pretty decently. So.
Okay. Thomas, do you have anything else for parks?
No, sir, I believe I'm good enough to have any questions.
Not any questions for parks? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. All right, next up, we will go to,
IT.
all right, next up, we'll go to IT. So Greg and Travis, I don't know if there's any
what
highlights
page?
you all want to touch on. Probably want to talk on a little bit about city, I've already mentioned them, but some of the new technologies that we look to roll out. Any
Just
Oh,
for the record, you're trying to find IT towards the back on page 293. That's where it kind of starts.
And I don't want it here.
We way out of.
So, Mr. Ward has said already, so I have a headache. We, back in 2016, after I first came here, we got the new ERP system at that time. We bought software to go on the SAN and having plenty of storage space. We've been using that same software since then. The data center, Microsoft Server Data Center 2025, and the SQL Server, those will serve to replace what we have in place. They are much needed. The level of operating system and the level of SQL Server that we currently have are not going to be supported anymore going forward. So we definitely need those. Do you have anything to add to that?
You're on page 2.
297, I'm sorry. Next, we'll talk about the city works a little bit. Back in 2015, we put that in over at the water utility. I thought it went great. It seemed to be a great product to pull everybody together. We just hoped the city would have joined with us at that time, and that did not happen, but you know, it is what it is. I feel like that's a very worthwhile venture for us.
So, and I do want to expand a little bit on how CityWorks can help. So, we have GIS, and CityWorks is a GIS-based software. So, you know, like right now, when Brian or Jenna or myself go and do paving, we store those records in Excel. They're not geographically tied to anything. With CityWorks, you can set up anything in the city as an asset. And so like you can create work orders against that asset and store work orders against that asset. So like if parks, you know, you would think our process for cutting down a tree is simple, but it's not. So in reality, and Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of times what happens is someone sends a request to trim a tree or to cut a tree. So then Brian has to go contact our contractor and they cut it down. Well, then Public Works has to haul off the tree. Well, then Parks has to go in and stump grind the tree. And then someone else has to come back and regrade the area. And so all of that is just done via email, text, phone call, whatever. Whereas in this, you could have a centralized system where you could create a work order, assign it to somebody, mark it as complete, everybody sees it as complete, and then it's stored against that asset. You can be as granular as you want to be. So like you could create this building as an asset, or you could create everything in this building as its own sub-asset within there. So like if Parks plants a memorial tree, they could create that as an asset, and if it needed to be watered, or if it needed to be trimmed, you could create that. You can also use it for vehicles, so you can create a fleet, and then like if it's time for your oil change, you can program that to remind you every so often when it needs to be done, or like I can go into CityWorks and say, send a request to the garage that says, okay, it's time for my vehicle to be managed or whatever. Mayor, this is also the first steps of how we would manage our assets, our preventative maintenance plan for parks. This is critical to that. But even like safety, and I think we had a meeting the other day, a training on GIS, which GIS is like, don't correct me, but it's like the base, and CityWorks, you know, is on top of that information. But like even safety, he goes and does, I don't know if Michael's still in here, but he goes out and does facility inspections, and he might find 20 things that are deficient that need to be corrected. He could then create a work order, send it to whatever department it needs to go to, and then he knows that, and everybody knows that those aren't done until that work order is complete, and then that gets stored in the system. So it really creates a record for everything. The water utility already uses it, so anytime they go and cut a street, Public Works gets a notification, but since we don't have CityWorks, it's just an email. We can't go in and edit the information. I think we've maybe worked with that a little bit, but this is really a crucial tool for us to move into the future and start really saving stuff in places other than Excel spreadsheets, notepads, and marker boards.
Interdepartmental
communication,
financing and stuff, or, you know, where you charge them for the.
Oh, yeah, you could, yeah, and see, yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we think that's a very valuable tool. And did you talk a little bit about, the water utility's already on it, their cost is increasing anyway. We've got some money included for basically onboarding, and then there would be an annual cost. I think our cost would be what, roughly 80,000?
The total together that we would split somehow with the water utility would be 88,000 initially.
A year.
A year.
And then we've included money, about 120 for
Right.
initial startup.
Yeah, the initial onboarding, probably a good sized department. I don't know if you guys have decided which one you'd like to onboard yet, but that would be your decision.
We'll discuss further.
Next on capital items, there's a software called Zima with a total request of $22,000. This request originates out of the finance department, and it's an add-on for our existing phone system that adds a lot of visibility into our incoming calls from the community. So allow us to kind of create reports of people calling utilities or calling specific departments. It'll allow us to have better insights into identifying where we need to improve as far as how we interact with the community and better track those kinds of needs. Anything you want to add on that, Jesse?
I think it will go and help with customer service, like Travis said. We can monitor more the calls of how many we've gotten, how many are actively on the call right now, who's not answering calls if they're available, not taking on an actual customer inside. And it ultimately can help our supervisors of looking at like a live dashboard to see who's helping customers, can we get to these people faster. It also helps both the community and our employees with it helping record the calls in case people call to complain about a certain situation, or if our employees handled a certain situation correctly, we could go back and look at that, and it can also be improvement for quality assurance purposes, because I know 911 does that with their calls, so this is kind of just a small improvement for customer service with that.
I love it. It's fantastic. Remember, one thing that we can always improve upon is how we treat the people who come to see us and do business with us, because ultimately their tax money pays our salaries anyway. And anything we can do to improve customer service, I'm totally all about. Thank you guys for looking into that, and that's fantastic.
No, it pays for everything.
That's right.
The next capital request is for, this is for the purchase of security keys. The total cost for that's going to be $20,000. Quickly to explain, the security keys, it's basically it's a USB device. And so this is my password for logging into a computer. And it goes a long way for increasing security, so no one can access my account or log in as me without this physical key. And the suggestion behind this capital request is to deploy these citywide. And so if someone's password is breached, whoever hacks or whoever breaches that password will no longer have access into our network without having this physical key. And this request kind of originates out of, I'm in a couple professional groups, and it kind of sounds like the Kentucky Department of Homeland Security is going to push, and this is kind of going to be a requirement at some point in the future. And I kind of want to suggest that we get ahead of that going forward.
Is it work in proximity, or do you have to plug it in?
This plugs in via USB.
Okay.
This also supports NFC technology, so you can, if you have a device that supports it, you can tap to log in.
You can tap it?
If the end device supports that, yeah.
Okay. Just asking, because if it worked on proximity, I would suggest that we also use those to be our security unlocks as well, so that you don't have to put something right up against it, you know?
Yeah, actually, the door access control system that we're looking at for the fire department supports NFC, so this device could function for door access and network access, or computer access.
Awesome.
Then the final capital request that I've been teasing for a long time now, it's a capital request, $500,000 to fund phase one of our enterprise resource planning replacement project. I've been working on a really big RFP document. I'll be happy to share that with you all here in the near future. So this request is to kind of fund some of the initial costs associated with that. I expect it to be potentially a 2 to maybe 3 year project as far as issuing the RFP, selecting a vendor, and then going through the data migration, onboarding, training, and all of those processes. So this request is to kind of kick off that 2 to 3 year process. Our ERP software that we're on currently, we've been on it for almost, so I guess over 10 years now.
10 years, yeah.
Through conversations with the vendor, it sounds like it's kind of at the end of its life. They're no longer onboarding new customers to the software, and just recently our account rep has been swapped out with an account rep that is the majority of their clients is part of the newer replacement software. So that's kind of a sign that we need to look forward.
I'd also like to note on page 296 of our itemized budget for 4440, there's a $87,000 charge on that. That is what we're currently at for the New World ERP, that they no longer sell people. So, and that keeps going up yearly. So at some point it's going to, and that's not even hosted. So that's we do that on ground.
Y'all have any questions for IT?
I do just want to mention one thing though, sorry. With that ERP phase one, so whenever we start to implement that, we're looking at kind of sharing the cost between the city, HW, which also uses our software, and gas and sanitation as well. So that is just phase one right there, but only a portion of that would be funded by our general.
Hargis, did you have something?
I was just gonna say, I would rather get ahead of it if we know it's coming, so I know that's a big undertaking.
Good deal. Thanks, guys.
Thank you all.
Appreciate it.
All right, next up, we have, who is this? Let's see.
Fire.
Fire, okay. Chief Dixon. Bring it up. Matt Anderson to support you.
Yeah.
And their budget's on page 206. I know we're jumping around a little bit from the original schedule.
This probably is the least detailed budget I've had in a long time, so it's probably good for you all.
Being like what you're asking for.
Yeah, thanks for asking for it, but, I'll start with the personnel one, because that's something that Megan, talked about earlier with the fire science pathway. We're requesting for an additional personnel in the training division. The rank would be training captain. And the reason for this is specifically for that pathway, and then also, once school is out, they would come back and have administration duties, also training our personnel. We approached you all back, gosh, it's been over a year ago when we did the fire science pathway, and we committed to the school that we would provide the instructor for at least a couple of years to get the program off the ground. Having said that, the program has excelled, it's done great, but the commitment has just become more and more that, just this coming year, we've got 75 students that are wanting to participate in the pathway, which would give the instructor basically a full day's load, and that would basically take our training officer completely away from us. So we wanted to act now, we wanted to get ahead of it. There's an MOU probably coming up, I would think, possibly in the next commission, Dylan left, I think the next commission meeting. But it'll be between the city, county, and the school system. And I don't want to get into details on the cost of that, but the salary and stuff will be split within that 10 months, and then the other 2 months, the fire department or the city would absorb.
That's great.
So do y'all have any questions about that position in general?
No?
Okay.
No, you've explained it well in the past. I think that's why there's no questions
I mean,
now.
it's been great. We had 4 that they can't sign a letter of intent that we're going to employ them, but they can sign a letter of intent that they can apply to us. And so we've got a lot of interest already for kids that have already graduated and some that are upcoming, and of course we've got 3 or 4 more that's going to do the co-op next year. So it's definitely been a benefit. I definitely think this is the pipeline for getting great candidates from our own hometown. So I'm pretty excited about it. It's been great. So.
I've heard good things about it.
All right, so next I'll go to what Megan talked about too, the tactical skill stipend program, which she went over a little bit of it, but.
So if you don't want to, page 107 has all these listed. It might be a good reference page for you.
And this is just to kind of go over if y'all have any questions on that. So the program overview is you've got our dive team, and then we have 4 other skills, which is trench rescue, rope rescue, confined space rescue, and hazardous material, which we were going to bundle those together for a total of 15 department member team, which is about 5 per shift, and that's excluding the dive team. With the dive team, we're talking roughly around probably a total of 21 total from the 15 member team and the dive team. Having said that, they would not get the stipend without making sure that they complete JPRs throughout the year and that they're getting checked off. So it's not just you get the certification, you get a paycheck at the end of the year. That's not how it works. And I'm going to go over the program overview, so if you have any questions, just let me know. So members would meet several requirements throughout the year to be eligible for the incentive. They would be required to be qualified in all 4 technical skills, excluding the dive team. At some point, the city all members would be assessed on random skills, probably around December is what we're thinking, which would be pass-fail. Members would get overtime to attend 8 hours of technical training per quarter. Members on the team would receive an additional $100 for uniform allowance, which is already figured in with our operational budget now. Members would have to meet JPRs, which we have created task books for them to complete. The training and skills would be eligible for $1,000 at the end of a calendar year, and I don't know if that's accurate when they would get that money or not.
It'll be at the end of the anniversary when they started. So for everybody
Okay.
starting out, probably the fiscal year.
Okay, so correct me on that. So the team would be formed through application process and interview, so it's just not, they get the certification, they're just not on it. And they would agree to come in available during the technical events that we have. You know, referencing back to like the grain bin rescue, that would be a point where they would get a call, and if they're in town, they would be required to come in to perform that. And any of these skills that these are no, this isn't just go or no go. This is, we get a call and we're required to act. So, you know, it's something that you want the best of the best when they're responding to you. So, with that being said, do you have any questions on that?
You guys have any questions? No, I think you brought this to us at a meeting before and explained it, and then we said, please bring it back to us, and you're bringing it back to us. Everything looks good.
All right, into the budget, and I'll start with the capital, which that's changed since we originally sat down to do the budget, because Engine 2, as you know, we're going to get it sometime, I'm assuming in late June is what I'm thinking. We're flying out the 1st of June to do the final approval on that, so I'd say about 2 weeks after that truck will be coming in. We also have another truck on order, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chelsea, but it's not included in this fiscal year, even though the money is available, because it's not due for delivery till somewhere around December of 2027. Is that?
Yeah, that's correct. Typically, in the last couple of years, we put it in the budget, even though we know we weren't going to spend it, but to help make our numbers more actual for each budget, we took it out for next year, but we still have the reserve to cover it for whenever it does come in.
I don't think either way it's coming in on this budget, it shouldn't. So the only really a piece of equipment that we've got on capital is a combination extrication tool, which is, you see, it's about a 5-month lead time, but that's to put on the new Engine 2. That's following suit to what we've done when we've gotten our new ladder truck, our new rescue truck, Engine 4 when we received that. And the purpose of that is that while the rescue truck has our main rescue tools on it, this is for them to start acting as soon as they get on there. They can start, it's an easy as popping the door and mitigating an emergency. They can go ahead and do that, and they're not waiting on a truck. So that's at a cost of around, we estimated around $23,000, and it could be less than that. That's all I've got for our capital. So there's not much there. Operational wise, really it's pretty straightforward. I may have hurt myself on the fuel cost, but I reduced our fuel costs. I think that I did that, but I have been tracking it. We've been averaging around 46,000 a year, and we had much more than that in the budget, so I did trim that. Our minor tools did jump up, but the reason for that was equipment that's coming for the new Engine 2 in service, and also the fire hose that will be placed on Engine 3. That's the same thing what we did last year. It was just put in a capital, but we're moving it back in operational this year. So that's the increase on cost on that. Other than that, the only other significant cost for operational is in contractual services, which was about a $16,000 increase or a little bit more, and that had to do with our new reporting and scheduling software that's tied to our new 10.8 and the dispatch, and then some odds and ends with the baby box monitoring and the term renewal and stuff like that we're getting with the new fire station. Other than that, that's pretty much it for the budget. It's pretty straight up forward this year. So y'all have any questions on that?
I think we're good, sir.
I would say one thing to mention about the green bin for the potential change for the final.
Yeah, I know that there's allocated money for that, but right now without the bid, we don't know what that cost is going to be. I don't know. I guess the county doesn't care, but I think that they had money allocated for $250,000. I don't know how much it's going to cost yet until we.
So we have $250 in the budget, current budget, as revenue and expenses, I think. Is that correct?
For the final. But it didn't make it into the.
Oh, okay, sorry. What she's saying is
Oh,
in your draft budget, it does not include the money for the grain bin, but in the final draft budget, it will include 250,000 in revenue and 250 in expenses for the agreement. So that's one
But it will
change.
be reimbursed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
I'm
we're,
sorry, I didn't.
It's just because we-
It's not, you won't find it in here, but it'll be in the final budget.
it's just because we're managing the project, but the
Correct.
county's paying for it.
Correct. That came at the very last hour.
Okay.
The only other thing, I mean, it's not an ask, it's just that, again, on y'all's back burner, the additional staffing for that ladder truck. And the only reason I bring that up is I have not requested for the grant coming up, the FEMA Safer grant is coming up on May 23rd. Probably low percentage of us if we would win it, but I would like to apply for it. I think there was only one fire department in the state of Kentucky, but if you don't apply, you're definitely not gonna be even looked at. But I think that definitely helps offsets the cost with FEMA giving, I think it's 100% the first year, then 75, 50, and then the city absorbs the rest of it. That's just something I wanna keep still in y'all's brain, that we still need to have extra staffing on that truck. And I know that's not a popular topic, but it's also a necessity. You know, you've got one person on that ladder truck. We just went through that ISO audit, and I did not know this, but on a ladder truck, it's supposed to be six personnel on it. We're not even close to that. But for it to be truly functional and for us to operate right, and Commissioner Pruitt always mentioned you because you were there that time.
Yeah.
We need that extra person. If not, we're juggling, pulling people off that.
Chief, I want to stop you before you move on. That's not an unpopular opinion. I don't know if there's a commissioner on here that disagrees with giving you the extra staff that you need. And I don't know why it's not in the budget. I mean, we're willing to give that to you if you need it. And you haven't, you've shown in the past that, especially with budgetary matters, I mean, you take that stuff really seriously. If you say you need something, we believe you.
Well, hopefully in the near future, here in the next commission meeting, we'll ask about that grant. I think that's the first step for that grant.
Okay.
So the one thing I'll say about Chief Dixon is, he's one of our more budget conscientious.
He is, and I appreciate that about him.
And he's very, he comes to me and says, man, I gotta spend an extra $100 or $200, it's burning me up, you know, or whatever it is, whatever the amount is. So I give him,
I try to treat it like my own.
Sure,
Sure. It'd be like coming out of my own pocket.
So the reason I say all that is because, one, I do appreciate it, but two, he has mentioned to me, so he did not specifically ask to put that in this budget, but I think, what's the name of the grant again?
It's a safer grant.
Safer grant. So I think in his mind, he wants to try to get that so that we don't have to fund the bill for the first, at least a few years, it'll offset some of the costs.
It would offset some of it, so it wouldn't be such a hit at one time.
So when is
That'd be
when
great.
that opens?
I think May 23rd, and usually it runs, I think, through July, so we have some time. We just need to make sure we get it on there if we do.
Who do you submit it to?
FEMA.
To FEMA?
Mhm.
Okay. When you submit it, let us know, and we can also put in a couple of additional calls to FEMA, just to kind of bird dog it a little bit.
So would both parties be okay with us keeping the budget as it is currently, but with the intent to, before we apply for that grant, we'll bring it to you all, get y'all's permission just like we would, and then if we, I don't know when we would get awarded it, but I don't know when it would kick off.
I think
but
that's forever, but
Okay.
it would be a while. I mean, it would be.
You couldn't qualify for the grant if you had already had the position created, though. I see you shaking. I think that's in most cases. I know we've got a Fox grant where we're doing a similar thing, so.
I've never applied to it before, so this will be the first time for me.
So I guess, at least from the mayor, I'm hearing support that you all are supportive of us applying.
Actually, you know what, and I'm unfairly speaking for everybody. What do you guys think?
Yeah, but how much are we short now on that ladder truck?
On the ladder truck?
Yeah.
I mean, it's only got one person on it. Short as a department, of course, we've got 3 recruits, so, you know, it depends on who retires and moves on and stuff like that, so.
But
we're not hurting on that, on like as a whole, but we still need staffing for that truck.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, because that night it did not work right.
I mean, you have to pull other people
yes.
off. You gotta think, you got one person on the turntable, one person on the tip, and one person pumping that truck. That's 3 people.
So.
And I think he's asking right now, at least for just one extra firefighter per shift.
So you at least have
Right?
2 on that truck that
Yeah.
they can start getting going and make it more functional.
It's a reasonable request, I think so.
For sure.
We spent, what, $1.2 million on the truck, at least?
Yes.
And if it don't have the right staffing, why, we wasting our money, you know?
Well, I mean, that's even something that Mr. McFadden has said. That was the first thing he said, is our safety director. He's like, you only got one person on that truck.
Yeah.
That's what it is. I mean, It's just what it is.
No,
No.
one thing consistently I've heard from all of you
Safety
is that
comes
safety of the community comes first.
Yes.
And if you need something to ensure the safety of the community, we need to give that to you.
Yes.
So yeah, if you want to apply for a grant, that's great, and it's cost conscious. If you don't get it, come back to us again, because we need to get you that staffing if you need it.
All right. That's all I got, unless y'all got any other questions. I've been the shortest one ever. Thank y'all, appreciate it.
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks, Matt. Always good to see Matt.
Wherever you need to go.
Matt, you see, you didn't say a word.
Matt, you did a good job, sir.
Best meeting I've been to.
We got a great team here. I love the camaraderie, and we just got some good people who work for us. So, and with that, I'll invite Chief Bowen up to the podium.
Thanks, Chief.
So Chief, I'll let you see what notes I've got, but if there's anything you've got in particular that you want to talk about, similar, while he's getting his stuff organized, on 107, similar to the fire department, whenever we started talking about stipends for the fire department, naturally, I started talking with the police chief about what positions they had. So if you look at 107, you'll look at the top, you'll see that they have their own equivalents up there with the ERT. That basically are equivalent of a SWAT, more or less, for lack of a better description, and I'll let you talk about it. But
Yeah, so we have 10 slots on the ERT, 3 hostage negotiators, 5 drone pilots. There's 4 spots for a dive team. We only have 1 right now, and he's actually not doing much with it. It's actually Bill in the back of the room. But after talking with Chief Dixon, he would like for us to have more. We used to have more. I wasn't here whenever it went back, but I think part of it was pay, so we're thinking maybe if we do have a stipend, we may get more guys interested to be on that with them. And then our detectives, we would like to do something different for them. In most police agencies around the country, it's commonplace that detectives are paid a little bit more than an officer. We had debated internally whether that should be in the form of a pay grade bump or a stipend. We settled on asking for a stipend for them. So this is the stipends that we're asking for. Before I move on to something else, do you guys have any questions on the stipend?
And while he's pausing, I do want to say when we presented this last, detective was not one that we talked about, because at that time, we were kind of debating. Billy and I had a little bit of a conversation, but we look at that as different than these others, because that's, these other things are things that officers do as part of their job, like in addition to their job, but it's, detective is, we have officers who are classified as detectives, and that is their job. They are detectives, but in our pay scale, there is no difference between an officer and a detective. It's just you all know in the department who are the detectives, and that's just there's no.
Kind of to expand on that, those specialty teams all have a full-time job, which is either patrolman or detective or supervisor, and then the team is an additional thing they do. The detectives, that's their full-time everyday job, and they're on call. I mean, if we have a shooting, a burglary, any big event, they're getting called out in the middle of the night, going out to it. So, to me, it warrants them getting a little bit.
Are you able to speak to yesterday, just kind of high level?
Yeah, we had a coordinated detail that originated with our narcotics unit. We're trying to get some guns off the street. We hit 3 different places. It was a planned detail. I told Dylan about it, I think on Friday or Saturday. Invited him to come along. He did. We met yesterday morning at 6 o'clock, and then shortly after went out and they hit 3 different houses. We were able to get, I think, 6 or 8 guns. I can't remember what I sent you. Over a pound of marijuana, several charges, and some intel that may help with other things moving forward. But some of these guns were like high caliber rifle type guns that are being used by younger teenagers and showing off and doing things with it that we didn't need those in their hands. So it's been an ongoing investigation that culminated yesterday morning.
And so I bring that up because the detectives are the ones who ultimately chased down all those leads, right? Got the intel that the entire department had. It was really a pleasure and an honor getting to watch them yesterday, because I was in the bullpen. You had people from Vanderbilt County, you had Henderson County Sheriff's Office there, you had our organization, I don't know if anybody else was represented, but you had 30, 40 people, and they're in Barral gearing up for this coordinated operation. And you know, the information, I'm guessing all came from, you know, I mean, it originated with a street officer, but the detectives are the one who put all that stuff together. And it's, so it does take specialty work and just further justifies the need to do that. So, and a lot of these stipends, one thing I want to say before I forget is, we kind of threw a number at it to start, you know, these are things that I would envision in the future, potentially us increasing over time, you know, because we, you know, 5 years from now, $1,000 won't be what $1,000 is today. So I'm just kind of, those will probably be reevaluated from year to year.
Does anybody have, before we move on from that, does anybody have any questions about that? So salary wise, you know, last year was the year that we gave both police and fire very large raises. And then this year, if we do, if everybody qualifies for the complete merit, you know, 4% is going to be around a $2,000 raise. If they get a stipend, it'll be a $3,000 raise. We're not changing health insurance. So I think it sounds like we're heading for, even though we're not doing anything above that this year, we're still heading for a decent size raise for everybody across the board. So
I would agree, and we told you guys in the past at some of the other meetings that we appreciate what you've done the past couple of years. I mean, I think over the past 3 or 4 years, there's been some pretty hefty raises.
Yeah.
And I'm not asking for anything above and beyond that this year, but I would encourage you to keep in mind that the police job is really tough to fill right now, and it's competitive across the country. I know across the bridge, from talking to Phil, they're close to 40 short right now, and it's everywhere you go, and all these other agencies are pumping a lot of money into their budgets, giving them raises too. So even though you've done a lot for us, we're still falling behind because others are doing a lot. So I'm not asking for more today, but just keep that in the back of your mind that I'm sure as we move forward, I am going to be beating on the door asking for more. So I appreciate you guys listening to me when I do that.
at some point in time, we're going to have to figure out the good problem that we have and the bad problem that we have, and it's both the same problem, is that our health insurance compares so favorably to other places. You know, for example, I talked to a police officer who went to Madisonville, and for a family plan, they paid over $1,000 a month in premiums for their insurance. And here it's a lot. It's $800 cheaper than that, right?
Yep.
And so we would be able to afford a much higher salary if our insurance was the same as some of these other departments across the state. But we don't want to take our health insurance and just turn it, and it has to, whatever we do for you, we have to do for all the departments. So we don't want to just take our health insurance and make it worse for all, you know, everybody across the board so we can afford higher salaries. So if anybody ever has an idea of how we can balance that out to give you good benefits, but then also be able to compete with other communities around us without having to jack our taxes up so high to cover a higher salary with those benefits, we are certainly all ears, and we want to do the same thing that you want to do.
And some of our problem with trying to compare is that the insurance rates are all different for individuals and what you're selecting and what you're not. And so when we hear the hearsay, that helps. Without mentioning other departments, I know there's some that are actually better than us, but there's some that are worse. But it's hard to compare that when it's not out there on a website for us to easily look at. So it's, if we know somebody and we get some feedback from them, we can do that absolutely. And I think we do have good insurance. So one of our SROs that we have is here because it was cheaper for him to do it that way. So we are trying to look at those things, but it's tough to compare the things that aren't out there.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
It is.
And making sure they're apples and apples and.
Yeah.
I do want to give kudos to Chief Bowen and Deputy Chief Schultz.
That he had another event tonight to make it. And he was going to be here at the original time, as it kept getting pushed back. It's like, I've got to go.
I do think, you know, I want to brag on them for a second. You know, the two of them make a really good team. I don't know how much time y'all have gotten to interact with the two of them, but they really complement each other well, and it's fun to watch them interact. And I think they're doing great things. I mean, you look at, you know, I know too, the situation with Peabody hadn't been ideal, and I know Buzzy and others have been working really hard to get that fixed. But I think, you know, Bob and Billy are doing a great job with the morale over there, and you know, just seeing the relationships improve between that building and our building, the flow of communication. I've been really pleased with how things are going, and he and I have talked a lot about salaries and stuff, and he is, what I love about conversations with Billy is we can have when we talk about it, it's not complaining, it's not we need, you know, because he recognizes the challenges, and he's helped inform me, you know, throwing more money at the problem, will it help? Yeah, it'll probably help a little bit, but there's a national problem that we're facing with shortage of officers. And,
Yes.
you know, I think the thing that I'll say is, and he kind of alluded to it, you know, it's going to be a conversation we're going to have to keep having to make sure we're still competitive, because, you know, there's a smaller pool to pull from, and the problem is when you do have people around you who are just looking at that salary number, they're gonna just, you know, that's what naturally people are tied to. Young kids, who a lot of times are the people who we're picking up, right? You know, younger. They don't care about that health insurance. They care about that number. And so one of the things that we've talked about that I'm hopeful with this stipend is, you know, for those young, eager, or anybody in the department who sees this stipend, they say, oh, well, I can get certified in 2 or 3 of these things, and I can make an extra $3,000 a year. And as you said, Mayor, you know, it's not the end all be all, but it's something that we think, or at least I think, and I don't want to speak for Billy, but I think will help motivate some of those people who are the people we really want to keep a hold of anyway. Those are the go-getters and self-starters. So, you know, I think the salary conversation is definitely something that will continue. And Mayor, he and I talked briefly earlier, but, you know, we'll do the best we can, try to get some information together where we can try to compare apples to apples. But then you throw in, is it Cliff or Cliff? What's the, there's a bunch of things that differ between this side of the river and that side of the river. And then, you know, you might get insurance prices, but maybe our deductible or our max out of pocket is $2,000 and theirs is $5,000, you know, so it gets really kind of sticky, but.
Population.
Yeah, we'll do what we can to try to compare that, because I think it's something we got to stay on top of it, because there's been a lot of, you know, keeping our forces full is a constant challenge.
And to complement the city, you know, back in 1995 when I started over here, I started off making $21,000 a year. So it's more than doubled that over time. So I mean, you guys are chugging along, and I know we're making the effort. The officers, a lot of times, they don't see that or they don't feel it. So we're trying to get them to understand that you guys are trying, you're wanting to help. But at the same time, I need to advocate for them because we are behind some of the others. So it's
keep doing it, because we care.
Yeah.
We certainly care. From 2000 until 2016, the entry salary went from around 27 to around 35. And then from 2016, the last 10 years, gone from 35 to about 51.
Yeah, and that's a great.
Yeah, we're working on it, and we will continue.
And as I told him, though, some of the salaries that I'm seeing in some of the other places, I would have never dreamed we would make that kind of money.
Yeah.
That from the guy starting off making $21,000 a year, but the reality is some of these people are paying it. And so that's what we're competing with. It's getting up there.
Yes, sir.
But we're losing people to those. So that's the struggle we have. And so with that, on my goals, there's not a lot changed. One of the ones I've harped on is trying to get our numbers to a full complement, and we are trying hard to do that. But it seems like we make one step forward and we take 2 steps back. We keep losing people. We had a really good officer tell us yesterday, turned in his 2-week notice. Local guy, the schedule's not working, he just had a baby. We're trying everything to talk him into not leaving, but I think the ship has sailed. I think he's going to, and he's not unhappy with us. He's just, it's not working for him, so he's going to do something different. But anyway, right now, we're authorized for 60. We currently have 50. We did double the SROs. They don't count in that number, so if you include them, we'd be at 60, authorized for 70. They are really helping. They're all retirees, plug holes for us, working special events, working Tri-Fest, doing off-duty details. So they've really helped to fill some of our holes, but it's the key officers that we're trying to get more of. And we've got 2 right now that are potential going to be laterals. What's really attractive about them is that we hire them. We don't have to send them to the academy. We don't have all the training. We can have them out on the street in no time. We've got 2 in the background process, and we got 7 more that we've just interviewed this week. There's some really good candidates in that 7, so I'm optimistic again. But it's every time we start getting there, something else happens. So with that, if you guys want to go to page 244, or actually, I'm sorry, 242, I'll just run through a few of the budget items that have jumped up a little bit in case you have any questions on those. So on 242, if you look at 4207, clothing supplies went up 15%. This partly is because of us doubling the amount of SROs that we have, and it's also because of the just nonstop in and out the door. We can't reissue clothing and shoes and vests that we gotta start over when we get new people in the door. So that's continuing to go up a little bit. Ammunition and tasers, price of ammo has just went up a little bit, and then some of the other part there is some simunition firearms, some rifles and guns. And what simunition means, if you're not familiar, they're like high-end paintball guns. So things we would use down at the old Jefferson when we're doing training. And when you add that realistic sting of getting hit with something in the training, I can tell you it makes it a whole lot more really. You're sweating, you don't want to get hit, it hurts. So that training makes it a lot more real than just shooting a paper target, is when somebody's shooting back at you. Go down to 4301, vehicle repair. That is what it is. We've got a lot of older vehicles in our fleet, and even though we're going up, and we're actually well above what we're asking for in this year's vehicle repair line. So you can see we're asking for 100. We're probably going to hit about 165 in reality this year for what we have going on. We go down to 4307, the other structures repair. Looks really bad, a 1,600% increase up to 85,000. This is not something we'll be doing every year. It's the lead mitigation out at the firearms training facility. The first time they did this was back in around 20 or 21, and I don't think it had ever been done before that. And I don't know if EPA or KLC, if they changed the rules, or if we just didn't know. I wasn't here for that. But it was around 80,000 to do it that first time, and then we're supposed to do it every 5 years or so. So this will be a thing we do this year, and then 2031 we'll be back asking for more to do it again. If we switch over to page 243, line 4405, the travel and training, up 25%. And one thing I've been very impressed with over here is the amount of training we're doing. We have a very well-trained department, and we'd like to continue doing that and get our officers into as much training as they possibly can. Go down to 4418, contractual services, jump 15%. This is where we're adding 7 more of the flock cameras that'll put us up to 22. We currently have 15 of them. Then if we go down to our capital, 4601 is motor vehicles, up 16.1%. Last year we got 4 marked vehicles and 1 unmarked. We're asking for 4 marked and 2 unmarked this year. That's why that's going up a little bit. And then the last one on here is 4607. It's 15,000. We didn't have that line before. It's a software and a licensing that helps us in investigations and intel gathering. We sent some officers to a training a couple months back, and this was one of the things that was discussed at the training and how it's benefited some other agencies. So we looked at that, and we think it would be worthwhile for our department to have as well. So that is all the things I have line item wise. Is there anything in any of the lines that you want to discuss before I move on to, I think I've just got one more thing to talk about after this. The last one that's on the slide is the grade reclassification for 2 of our positions. It's my admin secretary, and as I've told Dylan and Buzzy, I'm friends with most of the former chiefs we've had over in Henderson, going back to Ed Brady. Ed's one of them. If you talk to any of these, they will tell you how much she means to the department and how much she helped them, and they couldn't get by without her. Ed, I think it's kind of a backhanded slap to Bob and I, but anytime he sees one of us, because Ed hired both of us, he reminds us that the best hire he ever made was Wendy and not us. So she does a ton. I mean, I can't stress enough how important she is to our operation. And then the other one is, it's actually a crime analyst records technician. It's Beth Bates' spot. She is also a workhorse. That my struggle with her, as I've talked to them, is making her take vacation, making her go home and not work when she shouldn't be working. I think Dawn can attest to how much she does to help in their office as well. So we thought these 2 deserved a little bit more, and that's why we asked for that. So that is all I have to discuss. Do you guys have any questions or things for me?
I got one.
Yes, sir.
When you mentioned the increasing of the flock cameras, have you been keeping up with what's going on around the nation?
We are, and I would comment on that it is one of, I think, the best tools in my career as a police officer, and I think there's a lot of misinformation out there, and I've watched a lot of the negative videos. I watched a a YouTube video where some IT guy was talking about leaks and things. These cameras are not recording video. They're not recording your picture. They're taking pictures of the backs of vehicles, and so it's got a description of the vehicle and a license plate. That's it. And we don't have people sitting in a room watching who's driving down the streets. It's, if we have an investigation and we're looking for a car, we can put in the make of that car, we put in a plate, and we can see where it's been.
In some of the big cities that has banned them, what was their main argument? Do you know? If you don't, this may be for a later date. Don't even worry about this.
If you and I want to talk further, I'd be
because
glad to. I can talk to some of that,
you know,
but I know you guys.
Yeah, I see a
pressed today.
lot of different cities saying they're taking them down. You know, for different reasons. It may be true, may not be true. So I just want to make sure that.
I think a lot of it, just without going into a lot of detail, it's the fear of Big Brother.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah,
We'll
I'd be
talk
more glad
about
if you and I can get together later, and we'll be more glad to answer anything. Or if anybody else has questions, I can meet with any of you.
Not misinformation on the internet.
No way.
Well, like you said, we do need to continue to look at and work on at a pace that makes sense for our budget. Your all salaries. You know, we've come a long way, and I think all of us agree that we need to continue to keep this front of mind. So don't ever be embarrassed about coming to us, or not embarrassed, but don't ever be shy about coming to us and asking us for what you need salary-wise and letting us consider that. You know, so if next year you came to us and said, hey, this department's doing this department's doing that, we really need to get our numbers up to here or something like that, at least that'll give us something to consider. You know, it's hard to take too big of a bite all at one time, because then you get into, you know, several $1 million of additional money that we got to find somewhere. But increasing your all salaries and appreciating what you do for us is really important. So
I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Dylan and I have had a lot of conversations on it, so he understands where I'm at, and I know you guys are trying, so I do appreciate that. And it's just that balance of getting the officers to understand that you are trying and seeing them get rewarded, because it is tough out here. But I appreciate y'all listening to me.
Yes, sir.
I just want to piggyback and say, since you've been here, I hadn't got one call about a disrespectful police officer.
Me either.
Dealing with any citizen, you know. Me and Rodney used to get the calls. You know.
And I'll be honest, I appreciate you complimenting me there, but I think this department is already doing really well in that, and it's a very community-oriented department. And a lot of the things they were doing before I ever got here, and I've been very impressed. And I'll say something publicly that I've said privately. Coming back over here, I was thinking about me here in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
We had very little training. We basically had the state mandated. And I knew what we were doing in Evansville. There was a lot. And I thought, I'm going to have to get over there to Henderson, and we're going to have to start doing some training. And I've been blown away at how much this department has changed in the time I was gone, and how much training was already happening here. So
Awesome.
We've got a great department. We really do. And I can't claim credit for it. It was already great before I got here. So I'm just the guy lucky enough to be in charge at this point. So.
This summer we're gonna have a lot of events, so remember, like I told you, I want the people in the community to know exactly who's leading.
You let us know what you need. We'll be glad to do it.
Thank you.
Deal. Thank you, Chief. We
All right,
appreciate it.
thank you.
Yes, sir.
Happy Installation Week.
What's that?
Happy
Oh,
police
thank
week.
you.
I forgot. All right, so next up, Brian, thank you for being patient. You and Tim, y'all are gonna take us home. Yeah, well, and you had to stay the whole time regardless. They didn't have to stay. It's almost time too, haven't
It's
you?
almost time to go back to work.
That's right.
Brian's another one. We're trying to get all of them out if we can before he.
Just a quick comment too before this, as some of them say, we've always tried to be thrifty with the city's money, so we haven't really asked for a lot of capital over years. We try to make do with what we have. And also, as far as our staff goes, and we have lost 2 crew workers that resigned over the last 2 weeks, and we're going to be short people again too. So in both cases, it were more dollars of fuel to them somewhere else. So we've lost a few more. I'll keep this fairly brief because I know Tim's anxious to go too. As far as I'll do this as far as how it goes in the book. So the first one in the 341 Administration Division, there's really no changes in that. That's kind of a small division. So second, we'll go into municipal facilities, 014. In that, there's not really a whole lot of change, but I will add on to that we need to continue to look at the HVAC system for this building and try to get ahead of it, so we don't wind up in the same situation we were at the Peabody building. I know we've got money in there to start that. But I will add too, not in this budget, but maybe in the next budget, since we continue to add buildings and our maintenance staff has not increased since I've been here, so we may need to look at increasing some staff to help maintain all these buildings that we keep
Well, I
acquiring.
guess we probably haven't, and you and I have talked a little bit about this, like the MSC, even since the MSC has been acquired, new Fire Station 1, the
And
annex.
so we keep getting larger buildings too, so at some point, we're gonna have to have more staff. to
Yeah,
maintain
to
what we have
take care of them.
in shape, because it's just part of doing business. In our 234 traffic control division, we've added some money in our contractual services for traffic control striping and markings for this year. It's something we haven't done. We put out a bid, so we have a contract now to do some of that added stuff for some of these problem intersections and things. That's really the main thing in that. The budget really stays the same in that division. We'll go to the central garage, 366. That budget will stay the same too, but I will add this, that not this year, but maybe the next year. About 5 years ago, we had one of the vehicle mechanics retire, and we chose not to fill this position. So that left us down to 4 mechanics. So as our fleets increase, we may look at trying to hire that position back. Our superintendent currently does too many vehicle repairs, and he needs to be doing other things besides the day-to-day work. You know? If you have everybody there, you have a good number, but people are going to be on vacation, or going to be sick, or so you're missing staff regularly. So that's some of the rest of them have talked. Vehicle repairs are up, so that may be something we look at in the future as well. In our PWI, that's where we have our major concrete, and we did increase it 10% as we've been doing the last few years. Our asphalt overlay is the same thing. Our street paving increased 10%, and our sidewalk, new sidewalk budget. We did add in our contractual services, there's $142,000 in there now, and that is the overseeing now of the clover leaves and Watson Lane mowing. It was in other budgets, I guess, in previous years, but it's been moved to Public Works now. And then there's also some money in there earmarked for the possible contract snow removal that we talked about earlier in the year, so that's in there. We had our capital items for that division. We had requested a roll-off truck. We have one now. We have one truck. It's an old truck, and it's I don't know if you've seen it, but we use it's like a dumpster with a knuckle boom attachment on it to pick up debris, tree limbs, and trash debris. We've used it quite a bit, so we're looking to get a new truck to utilize that more often. So our choice is when we pick up these piles now. With this system, theoretically, you could do it with one person for the pickup. And the old method we used to use was we'd go out with a backhoe and we'd have a dump truck, so you would have 2 or 3 2 or 3 people just to pick up the same pile. So this has been more efficient and works better. So that's kind of what we're doing. We're trying to upgrade what we have. We want to keep the old truck just as a backup for moving our dumpsters that we move from place to place. And we also had in there a salt box and a plow blade, not a truck, just the accessories that we would throw them out in one of our existing trucks. So that would give us 6 plow trucks for winter season. It seems like whenever you have snow events, you start out with all of them, and it doesn't take long, and you have breakdowns. So you're down to 3 or 4 and trying to get things fixed back. So it just gives us just a little bit more reliability. I haven't. We'll go to the sanitation collection. Is there anything that we need to?
You go ahead. There's one thing I'll mention at the end here.
Okay. So So if you can go ahead, so on sanitation collection, we're looking at taking over the recycling collection, so we've asked for a collection truck. And then to go with that, we'll need to hire an equipment operator to drive that truck. And we're looking at one temporary worker to assist with that. As we've done, we've upgraded our trash pickup system with the new cans, and this will be a learning curve for us as well, trying to figure this out to go along with the trash collection to try to get it all worked out. So that's the major things in sanitation. In the landfill account, we're still looking to relocate our transfer station to another place so we can get to our landfill closure. And as you know, we're still continuing to work on our methane remediation process with the state, and that will be an ongoing thing. I mean, it'll be years and years for that. It's just, it's part of having a landfill. It was great while it was going. Now we're going to pay for having a landfill. It's just part of it. And as XR said when he was here, I'll let somebody else worry about it down the road. He was right. So I'm worried about it down the road. So, and in the transfer station, there's really no major changes. That's hauling and disposal fees that come out of that account and the skill house operation, and those will stay mainly the same. So if you want to add anything, Dylan, to that, if anybody has any questions.
You didn't mention Garden Mile Road, did you?
No, I forgot. So, Garden Mile Road in our street paving, we had the grant funding in that, so we did the 10%, and then we added $118,000 that we get reimbursed for. So there's, what was the total amount, Chelsea?
It is now at $916,600 for the total street pavements.
So that you are aware what that money is. I think it's LARP. I think it's local something. I don't know. It's a state acronym, basically.
Local Assistance Road
Yeah,
Program.
there you go. And this one, I think with some political help, we were able to get, the state was able to get funding for that. Basically, it's a way for the state to go around and rate some of your worst roads, and I think 10 is supposed to be the worst of the worst. I think ours was a 9, and our state legislators were able to get that funding secured for us, and so I guess that'll be handled as an LPA project, maybe, or just a straight reimbursement. Okay, so a lot simpler, I guess, then. So
how much total will we be out of pocket on that?
we'll be out 0. Now, I don't know what all is included in their 118, or
We have about 140,000 for
Oh.
Garden Mile Road and our road and paving, but we're gonna get reimbursed 118, so roughly 22,000.
Okay.
it's a percentage match.
Yes.
We still have to do the striping back and do the reflective.
Yeah, the reflector stuff.
Please, yeah, I was going to mention that if you didn't. The reflectors on that road specifically are so important. When it rains or snows and you're on Garden Mile Road, it is so difficult to see.
Has there been, what other project have we done with the state that would follow this kind of arrangement?
Not, this is new,
Yes.
but we did get 60 grand out of the
For the emergency, so however we handled that, for Watson Lane patching. I'll go back to, this is a new procedure with the state, and I'm trying to think in my mind how that money's gonna flow and how that process works.
So they'll, I would assume that there'll be some sort of agreement. And then once the project's completed, then we'll do a reimbursement request.
I bet you're right. I bet they'll handle it the same way we did the emergency funds on Watson Lane.
And you all know we forego some of our state funding every year in the event that we have an emergency need for a road repair.
That municipal road aid that we approved earlier in the last meeting, some of that gets held back in case we need, in case anybody needs an emergency and it goes into a pool.
Yeah, they hold back about 3% of that funding for emergencies.
I don't even know if it's a choice anymore. I think the way it was written this time was they just did it. Could be mistaken, but.
$22,000 for $1 million road, and all we had to do was a little politicking. Was it's a pretty good deal.
Good deal.
So, yeah.
You can thank Jeannie too, she and I went.
Oh,
walked it.
absolutely.
She took pictures and did all the grunt work, so she did.
Yeah, because it was technically, I guess, a grant type situation. You were like it was a grant application. So.
Is there a timeline for us to still look at taking recycling in-house?
Is there a timeline?
Yeah.
What's our contract? The current contract ends September 30th
Of this year?
of this year. So, so everything, which I keep in contact with those fellows over there that I know, and just to kind of keep them posted on what we're doing, what we're thinking, so I don't want them to be blindsided, so they're aware, so.
Say, let's talk through the process of what, because it's been a while since you and I have talked, so but what is the process for us to transition?
So for us to transition, we kind of did a letter of intent to purchase the truck, so.
Which was included in this budget, the money, so a few months ago, we had you all give us permission to get in line for that truck, and we included those funds.
So we're in the build slot, so.
When does that come in?
Well, we hope it will come in by at least August. So it'll all be dependent on when we get the truck, and we're hoping we'll do our request to advertise the position of the driver, so it goes out the 1st of July anyway. I feel like it's gonna be a struggle to get a driver. The last time we advertised this position, we didn't get any applicants. We were just lucky that somebody had applied for another position and they found out they had a CDL, so they asked them if they were interested. So that's why we hired Frank. That's how we got it. So I think it's gonna be a struggle to get everything in place. So I want to be in good terms with Waste Management, that if it comes time and we can't do it right away, that maybe they'll work with us and extend by months or a time period to let us get ourselves together, or we can either renew for another year and then cancel at some point. 60-day request to cancel by letter. So that's kind of what we're looking at.
Okay.
So if all the pieces go in place, we get the truck in August, we get the staff in board in August or September, and then the contract, because we already have the bins.
Right, so hopefully, then it'll be October 1, we take it over and start, and we have to figure out kind of what kind of schedule we're going to run until we figure it out.
Gotcha, thank you.
And now you're required, where you're going to dispose of it.
Well, right now, we're going to take it to where we're going in Evansville, where it currently goes. They're fine, it doesn't matter who brings it, they're going to keep it accepting it. They want our material. But when we get to the new transfer station, and we'll have the room to be able to take it there and then figure out where to take it, so we don't have to send trucks across the bridge through the day. That's going to be an issue too. Do we get over there, do we get trapped and we can't get back, and then how do we get the rest of it picked up? So it will be a process.
So much like sanitation, you got two, you got collection and you got disposal.
Yeah.
So with the recycling, what we're talking about is just the collection. The disposal's not changing, but with the transfer station, the new transfer station's online, and even potentially before that, if there's another option somewhere, because I don't know, I forget which side is the most, but we would eventually save money in 2 or 3 years on just the collection side, but if we could come up with a cheaper disposal side, that's where we could save some money
And
too.
we may, if we have a place here, our new transfer site, where we can dump the material, and then maybe it will work where we could work out some kind of arrangement with someone else to load it in a semi-truck and take it somewhere where we don't have to make all those trips across the bridge. And somebody that's wanting the material could possibly get us a good rate on sending a truck, and all we have to do is load it.
Because right now, you would actually have to take the physical truck that empties all of them, like you would take actually the equivalent of the garbage truck to the recycling place versus if we had a transfer station, you would dump all the stuff on the ground, load it into a semi-tractor trailer, and have that hauled it off. So it would increase our efficiency too.
Should probably do some research too on if we want to do any after sorting to get high-priced materials out and get paid for some of it.
The county does some of that out there with the school recycling and things that's going to require extra manpower and the sorting center.
I mean, I don't necessarily want us to go that far. It's a lot to undertake anyway, but.
A lot of the problem right now, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the value is not, at least over here in America, it seems like it's cheap, it's on a lot of cases cheaper to dispose of than to pick through and recycle. You know, like in some places in Europe where it's been more established and it's been around longer, recycling is more efficient, it's more economical. And here, a lot of places, it's still easier and cheaper just to take it to the dump. And that's what we compete against for the.
Cardboard has value,
Yeah.
most everything else doesn't have any value currently, so that's kind of what you're faced with too.
Gotcha. Well, thank you for the update. I don't want to belabor it because I know everybody wants to go, but thank you for the update. Appreciate it.
So that's kind of how we stand.
Brian, before you go, you might want to tell us about the paving that we're doing in the next, tomorrow?
Tomorrow, yeah, we finished the milling as of this morning, and the pavers will be here in the morning, and they hope to have it all done by Friday, so.
Oh, that's great. Jay Randolph will be happy about that.
Oh, really?
That's all the roads that they tore up, so I put in new pipes and everything.
Took a hit on Facebook the other day, good thing I don't have that.
I will say this
Me
about
either,
Brian. Brian's like a second father, and I say about him and Buzzy both, but he's one of the most patient people I know, and he does a great job. I think between the ice storm and some of the complaints on Facebook, I think it's.
I don't do Facebook.
Yeah.
That's right, yeah.
Smart man.
We forget how to be nice to each other on Facebook a lot, you know, and
It's impossible to be.
yeah, it's good not to do it if you don't have to. So thank you for the update.
I've always thought
Appreciate it.
that.
Brian does a great. I called him the other day, needing an intersection done, and he had it done the next day. So I appreciate the. He's another one who's not going to be around too terribly much longer.
Hey, you stay as long as you want. We love you.
Brian, you say you're down 2 men, is that what you said?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Anyway, we've been here before, but this is the busy season now too.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thanks,
All
sir.
right, Tim. We're sorry to. We'll have to let you go first next time. We'll have to make a note of
They're
that.
usually the first ones, but since we switched so much with admin stuff.
So remind us.
What we did to make her mad.
Remind us next year, and we'll have you go first next time.
I'm gonna go quick. I have no personnel changes this time. Our capital stuff is funded by the gas fund, so it comes out of the gas fund, not the general fund. Is a new backhoe is around 150,000, and that'll be shared with Public Works. Probably use it just as much as we do, and maybe parks once in a while. New crew truck, well, is around 90,000. It's replacing a 2013 crew truck that we have. Back to the backhoe, our newest one we have is 20 years old, so we've been a little overdue on buying another one. Then Geneva Smith Mills Phase 1, we have 130,000 for that. And Geneva Smith Mills Phase 2, we have 200,000, but that will be reimbursed by the fiscal court. We have a locator vehicle at 40,000, and we have 20,000 for a new laser methane detector that we use for leak survey. I believe that's everything on the capital expenses. On goals and projects, we have the North Main and North Elm Street project. We did apply for the PHMSA grant, or we are applying for it, so it'll probably be the spring before we know anything on that, before we start on that, so that'll be next calendar year. We have a smaller North Main Street project we'll be doing this summer between 3rd and 5th. We have the Watson Lane widening project that'll either hopefully start this fall or spring, and that's kind of up to KYTC on timing. Some department goals that we do every year is we replace around 450 residential natural gas meters, and then the ones that we take out, we test them, make sure they're accurate. We perform natural gas leak survey on at least 1/3 of our natural gas system every year. So every 3 years, our entire system has been surveyed for leaks. I already mentioned Geneva and Smith Mills. Hopefully all 5 miles of that will be done this calendar year. The Hellman Mill regulator station replacement we spoke about earlier. We'd like to do that this year. We have a 175 PSI line near Agaves and Stapp Drive that needs relocated, kind of due to close proximity to the building there that houses Agaves and State Farm. We hope to do that this year. And then we do at least, last year we did over 8,000 811 tickets. So when people call to dig, we responded to 8,000 separate sites.
Oh my gosh.
For 811 tickets. So that takes an incredible amount of time for us to respond to all that. So That's it.
I didn't know what that number would be, but I wouldn't have imagined it would have been 8,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It keeps going up, and the I-69 work over the last 3 years, and then all the fiber work, multiple fiber companies, has really drove it up. And we pay per ticket to Kentucky 811, so it's drove those costs up as well.
Good deal. Any questions for Tim? No. Thanks, sir.
Good job, Tim.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
That's what I was trying to figure out. I didn't have a calculator, but I was trying to figure out 32 a day.
Damn.
Is that on an 8-hour day or a 24-hour day? 8-hour day. All right. Chelsea, I guess you're gonna bring us home.
Last but not least, the finance department, so I'll keep it short since we kind of went over our time, but just a few things that we accomplished this past year. So I just want to touch on, last year we asked for a new finance manager position, and he is in the room today, Shay Bridges. He's been a great help with getting procurement started. He also was a big help with getting together this draft budget. So he's been here a little over 6 months now, but he's been a great addition to that finance department. So I just want to give a shout out to him and thank you for working with our finance department over the last 2 years. And another big thing that we did with the budget was that we did a cost allocation study for the government service charges or admin fees that we give to utilities. And so on page 78 of your budget is the new cost allocation that I'm talking about here. So we kind of revamped it. We re-looked at all of our kind of like administration departments, personnel, stuff of how much they work with our utilities and what should be fairly charged to them for our services there. So that was a big new ticket item for this budget process, but I think it turned out pretty well to continue our collaboration with our utility partners.
So if I could say one thing, so basically so HR, for example, we provide, Megan is HW's HR director, just like she's the city's HR director. Michael McFadden is their safety person, just like he's ours. So all of these divisions, there's a percentage of that gas pays for, sanitation pays for, power and light, water and sewer pays for, and then the rest goes to the general fund. That had not been looked at. I didn't even really fully understand this until Chelsea came on board and we started talking about it. This hadn't been looked at since 2005, 2006. So Chelsea did the bulk of the work, but she got with each department, each division, and we recalculated this. We met with HW last week on it. So truthfully, looking at these percentages are much more fair and much more representative. So when we talk about where do you see how much of HR does gas or water pay for, or how much of safety do they pay for, that's where this charge comes from. So I just wanted to explain it because it wasn't something I was fully aware of up until this cycle.
And then I'll just jump right to it. So a lot of times you don't see decreases in total departments, but this year my finance department is decreasing in amounts, and that's a large portion too. We're reducing the contractual services for Vermex meter reading services. So we just ended that contract here in the last week because we are now done with the manual meter reading project conversion to electronic stuff. I think we're 99.5% done with gas and HW and electric meters. So that was in my department for utility billing, and so that's been reduced with that. We also switched things between my finance admin division and utility billing. So I'm moving kind of all of our accounting, financial reporting into that admin division. That way I have a sole division that's strictly for utility billing and utility meter reading items, so that one's 100% charged to both gas, water, or electric there. So that utility billing moving forward will be 100% funded by our utility partners there. And then one of the big goals for this next year, we're always looking for ways to streamline our processes for our vendors, for the community, anybody that's doing business with the city. And so we put in a tiny bit of funding. I think it's $8,500 to improve the procurement process for bids that are over $40,000, to put it all in one place for communication-wise and making it electronic so that we can potentially get more bidders and better responses to the things that we need for our city there. But
Oftentimes we have people who are like running in the door at bid time, trying to drop off a physical packet, and we need to have an electronic. The whole thing is sealed bids, and if you just email a bid, it's not sealed. It could be questioned whether it was tampered with or read beforehand, conspired. I'm assuming this technology addresses all that. So this is something we've needed for a while.
And it
so
brings
it's
us
a great
more
thing.
towards where we are electronically today, where people are asking why we can't accept electronic bids or emails and stuff. And so this will hopefully improve that process and maybe get better rates moving forward on different things that we need for the city. But that's all I needed to highlight for my department. So any questions relating to today? Oh, yes. I am also reducing one authorized position of the office assistant. So due to someone retiring that's been in that position, I am looking to kind of revamp how we have people enter our city building outside of the utility area, just kind of more so into like our first, second, third floor area there. So I'm working with IT department to kind of streamline how we handle customers coming into this building and making sure that we're using our money wisely for that. That will probably come in the future of how to enter the building here, but we'll come to you before we make any final changes for that.
Looking at using like some sort of camera system or AI phone system, things that kind of are a little bit more user friendly. So we're working on that, but when we get to
Still
that
keeping
point,
the good customer service, but kind of streamlining the processes to make sure that they're reaching the right individuals that we do see.
You said, you said AI. I don't, it may be a coincidence, but we had a lady back there that said she was able to come through, but she may not come through maybe with somebody else. But I have been looking at it. When it comes to security, a lot of places, they've got metal detectors you gotta walk through before you get up into the city building like this, and they got people there, checking. You just can't walk in and then get on the elevator and come up and see mayor or something. You gotta go through some security with people there. I'm just saying, I don't know what you're thinking about, but.
I mean, I think we do okay right now, but I think we could definitely streamline of making it more secure for people coming into the building to protect our employees that are in this building, but meanwhile staying customer focused and make sure that we're not, we're not impeding or however you want to do it, getting access to the city.
Yeah, I think there's two different considerations. There's a consideration that if someone has a legitimate reason to come in the front doors, we want their experience to be easy. Like we want, even if it's them pushing a button and, they're speaking through someone with intercom and say, okay, we'll be right down to get you, you've got to balance that with also keeping the building secure. Because as you said, we were on vacation somewhere, I think it was in Arizona, and I walked in, their city building was just right there. I was like, oh, their city building, I'm gonna walk in, and it was like, you couldn't see anything. It was like you saw a wall and a metal detector and a wall, and like you couldn't get past that. And so one of the things that I've asked, I've been talking with Deputy Chief Schultz about it is, our building, it's kind of thing, we've taken some steps over the years. This is something Buzzy and I have talked about quite a bit in the past, is we've taken some steps to make our building secure. But, some things like talking about the fishbowl downstairs, it's got bulletproof, but then if you just walk around the side, that's the only exit and there's nothing there. So one of the things that the school has done that I'm looking at getting pricing for is they've created, 3M company has a sheeting that you can apply to windows. It doesn't make the glass bulletproof, but it makes the glass to where it can't be shattered. So you would put it in there, and then if someone were to shoot it, the bullet would go through, but they wouldn't be able to, the glass would remain intact, so you couldn't actually break entry. And so that's the kind of stuff that we're looking at balancing is, we want people to come in, have a good experience, be able to get who they need when they need, but also not have free access. Because right now we are a secure building. In theory, no one should be able to just walk in. Like we keep the doors from collection. Like you can walk in collections freely, but the inner set of doors on the front door and the set of doors between collections and the lobby remain locked. And the only way you can get in is if someone lets you in or buzzes you in. But if someone had anything hard, they could break the glass and walk right in. So that's something we'll probably put a plan together, and we'll come back to y'all at a later date with kind of what we're thinking. But that's something ever since COVID, and I guess COVID and somewhere in there security issues, we've kind of bounce back and forth different things, so. Anyway, y'all have any questions for finance?
I think we're good.
Okay, well, I didn't really prepare any sort of closing remarks. I know it says closing remarks, but I think we've been here, we're only 40 minutes past our time, which I think we started about 40 minutes late, so I think we're
right on time.
I think we hit it right on time. So I do want to just reiterate that, I want to give kudos to Chelsea and to Buzzy and to Megan and to all of our department heads. I know Shay and Dawn and other staff from finance, and Bill, we appreciate you sticking around for the session, but we're pleased with what we presented y'all. I've taken notes on what your all suggestions and recommendations have been. So we'll look to incorporate all those changes. If I have any questions, Mayor, I'll go with you beforehand on any of that stuff. But I think Chelsea's put together a good budget. I'm pleased with where we landed, and I appreciate the cooperation we've had from all the department heads and from you all throughout the process. And if you think of anything between now, I guess our plan is to have the first read not at our next meeting, but
The first meeting in June.
First meeting in June. So, if you think of anything between now and then, feel free to reach out and let me know.
Fair enough. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
So, motion second, all in favor, aye? Aye, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Yeah.